Welcome everybody to an Undisputed Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. Oh, it's a good firm, Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad. Everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. We've got a fantastic post-fight show for everybody here. We just had a significant... Listen, if the fight had not gone the way it did tonight, I would not have gone on the air. But I mean, we've got the Zoo versus Ocampo fight in about an hour, I believe, unless I am mistaken. So I said, you know what, instead of staying up and not doing anything and possibly falling asleep, I may do a little show here, post-fight call-in show. And until the other fight arrives, and then we'll see what happens. So fellas, call in, let us know what you thought about the Prograis versus Zorrilla performance. Did Prograis look like the best, or second best, I should say, behind Teofimo Lopez, junior welterweight in the world? Because there was a big discussion that I was seeing on Twitter and on certain YouTube comment sections and all that, and people were saying, oh, hey, Teofimo Lopez isn't undisputed because Prograis is a title holder, and therefore until Teofimo Lopez beats him, there's still a dispute. Well, I really want to see what people think about that now. What do you think of the scorecards? What do you think of Prograis? Did Prograis look better than expected, or than we should have expected, rather, when he fought Chon Cepeda last year? I'll talk about all that plus more. The phone lines are already open, fellas. The phone lines are already open, so make sure to call in. The numbers are in the left-hand portion of your screen. And the number, I'm going to put it up here. There you go. So make sure to call in, fellas. Be brief, be concise, be succinct with your phone call, because again, I don't know for how long we're gonna be here. Try to keep us updated too in the chat, fellas, about when the Zoo versus Ocampo fight is taking place. By the way, Ocampo looks taller than Zoo at the face-off, and then on top of that, I know Ocampo's a pretty buff dude ever since moving to 154. So we could be seeing another upset here, or rather another good performance from the challenger. So we'll see what happens. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Raf Unreal, The Functopus, Eric Rosas, El Único Cocho, Mark T, Double L, D Money, Jesus M. Who else? Oh, shout out to Cyber Demon Sebastian, who says Regis still beats Teofimo. All right, there you go. So for some people, nothing has changed. Shout out to the GOAT Mario P, Virtuoso in the house as well, Sam Rando, Marty Rembecki. Many more people to come, I'm sure, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, this is a post-fight call-in show, so call in. Let us know what you thought. Well, spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen the fight. Regis Prograis, it wasn't the sweet homecoming he thought it was going to be. Yes, he took on a game Zorrilla and ended up winning by unanimous decision. Now, I got to tell you, fellas, last week we saw some pretty bizarre scorecards with Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. Teofimo Lopez clearly winning the fight, and yet some of the scorecards were pretty close. A little too close for the public's liking. Then on top of that, we had the whole Vasyl Lomachenko versus Devin Haney debacle with those horrible scorecards as well. And so this time nothing's changed apparently in boxing. Robert Tapper had it 118-109. Joseph Mason had it 117-110, and Judge Craig Metcalfe had it 114-113. I would agree more with that card. That's the most realistic card. Now, some people are saying that I was able to take the time to do some preliminary research, a little polling to see what the public thinks about the decision, and some people feel like this was the correct decision, seeing as how Zorrilla was running too much and clinching. I like the clinching. A lot of people aren't focusing on the clinching. Nevertheless, Prograis did win the fight. Now, whether you agreed with the judges' scorecards or not, the fact remains Prograis looked subpar in this fight. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. The guy looked, first of all, he was following Zorrilla around. He wasn't cutting the ring off. He was flailing at the wind most of the time. He wasn't jabbing his way in. He was flicking that jab, but he wasn't jabbing his way in. There was no right hand to speak of. It seemed like in the beginning, in the first 3 rounds, you could tell he was coming forward, changing levels, and I thought, okay, I see what he's doing. He's trying to throw that overhand right. I get it. But then about a 6, 7, nothing's happening from Prograis. Nothing's coming from him. There's no offense. And I thought, okay, this isn't a case of Prograis taking his time or carrying Zorrilla. This is a case of him not being able to figure Zorrilla out. And you got to give Zorrilla credit too, good footwork and all that. But what happened to the sweet science? Hey, if the other guy's running, you're the one that's supposed to cut off the ring, right? That's what the LDBC Gedowas Nimrods always say when their fighters doing the running. It's the sweet science, hit, not get hit. It's up to the other guy to do something about it. Well, Prograis wasn't doing shit in there. And now, look, the clinching, if I would have been the referee, I would have deducted a couple of points from Zorrilla, because that was some horrible clinching done from Zorrilla's part. That being said, again, let's stick to the narrative from some of these so-called modern boxing fans, these modern hipster fans that say clinching is part of the game. It's up to the other opponent. It's up to the opponent to do something about it. So, hey, I guess if you're following those rules, hey, you reap what you sow here, fellas. This is the type of entertainment that we get when we get spineless, dickless people out there refusing to call out cheating. This is what we get. Don't come crying to me. Don't come crying on my shoulder. When Power Corporation sets the rules like this is the type of shit product you get. So don't come crying on my shoulder, all right? Because I've had it. I really have had it, especially at this time of the day. I see we got a phone call here. Let's go to 816. 816, you're on the air. 816, what's on your mind?
You hear me?
Yes, 816, go ahead.
Yeah, Regis, he wasn't looking too good in this fight at all. I think he'll have Haney beats his ass 10-2.
Oh.
Tank beats his ass by knockout.
Hey, caller.
Teofimo will destroy him.
What about Josh Taylor in the rematch?
Yeah. Him and Josh Taylor, that'll probably be a good fight. But 140 was overhyped.
You know what? That's what I heard some people say that. Some people, I was listening to White Rapids earlier during the fight. He said, did we completely overrate 140 pounds? What do you think?
Yeah, 140 overrated. Like him and Josh Taylor, no. They were just fighting other slow people that couldn't move. If we go back and look at all their fights, they were just fighting people that couldn't move. As soon as you put somebody in there with move, he looks trash. And if you put somebody in there that can actually box, he gets swept. There's no way he could win a round against nobody at not any of the top guys at 135. Everybody beats him.
Now let's explore this, caller. Caller, let's explore this. Regis Prograis is 34. Did age catch up to him today?
I don't think it was age, because if we look at that's always how he fought. He just fought people that come straight at him too and can't move. So I just think we overrated both of them.
Well, I mean, where does Prograis go from here? Because Eddie Hearn was pretty adamant about defending him in the post-fight, saying that it was all Zorrilla's fault that the fight stunk. It was Zorrilla who stunk out the joint. So where does Prograis go from here? Can he? So you don't see him beating any of the top junior welterweights. Hey, by the way, do you see him beating Jose Ramirez?
I mean, he might want to stay in fights like that, but I think if he fights a boxer, he'll get exposed like to the point we don't even want to see what he'll look like against Haney. Haney will just fucking expose him. After we seen this, we know Haney gonna expose his ass. Like, even if people hate Haney, you can admit that he will fuck Regis up after you seen that.
You know what, man? I gotta tell you, I was
Loma, there's no way
that jab would be a problem for Prograis. It would be, but to be fair here, I saw Zorrilla.
He wouldn't even have to. He could beat him with no jab.
No, I don't know about that, caller, because what Zorrilla was doing here was he kept. Hold on, let me say this.
No jab.
Let me say this. He kept Prograis turning. Haney's game is not the turning. Haney's game is pot shot clinch. Pot shot clinch.
Haney's game is turning. He turned with Loma. You think he can't turn with You think he can't turn with Regis if he turned with Loma?
Maybe he can. I didn't see him doing a good job of turning.
He would be already around the corner before Regis hit him.
I didn't see Haney doing that great a job against Loma, but then again, that was Lomachenko. So maybe you're right. Maybe Prograis, even though he's bigger.
With Turney?
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
you didn't see him do a good job with Turney? That's a lie. I mean, that's just disingenuous right there.
I didn't see him doing a good job against Lomachenko, man. I mean, he even told his father, "This guy's reading everything I'm doing."
I mean, hey, everybody has their own opinion, but we know Haney, he flushes his ass.
Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. But like I said, he didn't do a good job of turning Lomachenko. He told his father, "This guy's seeing everything I'm doing." But then again, I will say this. Prograis, I will say this. Hold on, caller. Let me finish. Caller, let me finish. I will say this, though. Prograis, even though he's bigger than Lomachenko, is not Lomachenko. So you might be right. Maybe Haney does wash him. I don't know. But anyway, listen, we're going to move on to another phone call here. But thank you for your call. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait. 1 second. That was after what you were saying earlier. That was after the 9th round, after he won that round. So him saying that was just him telling his coach that he sees something. And his coach gave him the tools to beat that. And he implemented that in the 12th round. And he won the fight. So you saying
that's your interpretation.
You being disingenuous.
That's your interpretation. That's not what Haney said.
It's your interpretation too. It's your interpretation too.
I mean, listen. I saw him. I heard him say that. And I saw him lose the fight. So I mean, to put 2 and 2 together, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure things out.
In the history books, and the people that think Haney won the fight.
Right. The history books also say Whitaker and Chavez is a draw. Chavez and Whitaker is a draw in the history book, so I guess we got to go with that too.
No, I'm not.
Well, listen, caller, thank you for your call. I got to move on to another phone call. Caller. I got to move on to another phone call here, so thank you for your call. Call back next time, right?
You.
All right, let's go to another phone call here. This guy just went to argue. I got to move on to another phone call here. 206, you're on the air. 206, what's on your mind?
Yeah, you got me okay?
I got you fantastic. Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, this is the Funktopus.
Oh, Funktopus, what's up?
You guys, well, I mean, you see what I said in the chat. So, I mean, I think Prograis won, but it was close. I mean, if it had been a tie or him down by 1 round, I could have lived with that too. The other guy, he came in and stunk out the joint, and I don't like that. I don't like to watch that. But by, the way things are currently judged, I mean, it was close, right? That said, I didn't think Prograis looked all that bad. He was quick. The guy that he was fighting was a bad style matchup. That was a tall, lanky dude that was running away the whole time. So I don't think that you can really get a good gauge on how he's going to look versus Tank or Haney or Teofimo. Because I thought he looked rusty, but he was still quick, and he still hits really hard. And he was making the attempt to cut dude off. You see him stepping sideways the whole freaking fight, So
you're saying that just like Teofimo Lopez looked bad against Sandor Martin and then beat Taylor, this might be the same, similar dynamic here.
You know what? That is an excellent expression of the idea. Yes.
Now,
I mean, I don't think that Sandor Martin is anybody's chump. I think Teofimo looked bad against him, but he was tough to look good against, and he came with the same plan that Zorrilla had. Right? Now I haven't seen Zorrilla before. They keep talking about during the commentary how usually he brawls. So I mean, maybe I would watch him fight some other time, but I that was no fun at all. Anybody have fun watching that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, would you be willing to rewatch the fight to score it?
You know what? I'll go back and score it, and I'll post it the next time you have a show. How about that?
You'd be doing everybody a great service by subjecting yourself to that.
I don't know, man. Look, man, I think that there's a lot of people that come on this show that know a lot more about boxing than I do. I've been watching it a long time, and I have my opinions, but,
Well,
So
let me ask you this.
I'll make the effort, but don't count too much on it. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I got you. Now, the previous caller said Haney washes Prograis. I believe that's going to be the sentiment for a lot of people out there after the way Prograis looked. What do you think about that, a potential Haney-Prograis matchup?
I think that the people that have that opinion are people that are fans of boxers, not boxing.
But I mean, I can see what the last caller meant by that.
There's an agenda there, is what I'm getting at, right? My point was that there's an agenda there. A wash, I mean, like, they're talking like, yeah, the scorecards are going to be 118 to 109. I mean, do they really believe that?
I mean, the caller said that. Yeah, the caller said that. I wouldn't say a wash, but I would say that based on, I mean, look, you made some good points. Zorrilla made Prograis look the way he did today, but considering that Prograis did pull off the win, then maybe it wasn't that bad. That being said, Haney is quick. He's quick with that trigger. He's got a good jab. He could present a lot of problems for Prograis.
You know what? No, I mean, I'm not saying that Prograis goes in and kicks the shit out of Haney. Not at all. But like anybody that says it's going to be a wash, I think they're a fan. I think they're a fanboy. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, everyone's got their own opinion.
Either way, that's a good fight. I'd watch it. And I totally thought that Lomachenko got screwed out of fighting Haney. But that said, Haney didn't do as bad as I thought he did, as I thought he would. He showed a little bit of grit. So I don't think that somebody strong like Teofimo or Prograis are necessarily just going to go in there and run him over. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think they're, so, I mean, like, you know what? Honestly, I think that right now, 140, if you've got Teofimo, Prograis, Haney, Tank, I don't know, Tank's not going to go up there, right? Tank needs to fight Lomachenko. That's a good fight, but I think at 140, there's a lot of good fights that could happen. We might be on the edge of a golden age. I mean, there's a lot of kids with talent out there, but they won't fight each other. They just want to like talk shit on Instagram and sell advertising and get paid for that. Who wants to fight?
I mean, that's a good point right there, man. That's an excellent point. Now, that's the main thing here is that we got some young fighters coming up. Somebody else asked the question too: was 140-pound overrated? Was this division the past 3 years a little overrated?
I don't know. Between 135 and 147, it seems to me that there are a lot of potential all-time greats, but they don't ever fight each other. They just talk smack. I mean, when you figure in what's that kid, Keyshawn Davis? What's the other one that was supposed to be super duper black kid?
Kind of love.
He had one fight recently that he didn't look super duper. But I'm sorry.
Kid Austin?
No. There was like Keyshawn and this other guy that was very highly touted, and he had one fight where he didn't look super duper spectacular, but it was one fight. So and everybody's like, oh, he's not that good. I think there are a lot of between 135 and 147. There are a whole bunch of people right now of similar size and a lot of talent. And if they fought all the time, we could have a great era, but it's not happening because everybody has their respective groups of fanboys on social media. So it doesn't matter what happens. They just go there and claim they won. And these people that are their fanboys have already invested all of their social capital promoting them. So what are they going to do? Say, no, he lost? No. Nobody really cares. These people, they don't care about the sport. They care about the people that they're living vicariously through.
That's a good point. And these people are hurting boxing. I'll say it that much. All right. Well, listen, Funk Tippers, I'm going to move on to a phone call here, but thank you for your call. Call back next time.
Okay. Yep. All
right. Take it easy out there. All right. That was the Funk Tippers. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. Let's go to our phone call here. Let's go to 773. 773, you're on the air. 773, what's on your mind?
What's up?
Oh, K-Dog. What's up, man?
Nothing much. What I was thinking about after watching this fight is maybe these guys aren't as good as we think they are. The Josh Taylors, the Prograis, It's like they beat these dudes, and they kind of all fight each other, and we judge their talents off them all fighting each other, but they haven't really fought someone that's actually good or actually elite. Maybe they're just a little bit above average, but not elite. And that's really seems to be the state of boxing. These fighters can go around fighting guys that are not elite, and they just kind of get away with fighting above average fighters. Even world champions can be above average. Good, there's so many titles on the line, so many divisions, so many belts. It's ridiculous. So that's the train of thought I had watching this fight. I thought Prograis was like a elite world class fighter, but after watching that fight, not so much. After watching Josh Taylor, not so much. It's some of these guys, holy shit. They're trash. They're not trash, but they're just not the fighters I made them out to be.
Like Jimmy said before the Lopez fight, Taylor never actually dominated any of his top foes. He dominated Ryan Martin, and that was really about it. He went to war with Prograis, he went to war with Baranchik, he went to war with Postol, and Prograis, for all the hype he was getting, was really because of the Chon Cepeda fight, but he also had to, he struggled with Taylor. He didn't beat him. And it was a very, very close fight. So you might be right. Maybe this whole division, maybe those guys were all good, and that's why it was competitive. Or maybe, like you said, maybe they just weren't that good at all. But who would you like to see Prograis fight next? Who would you like to see him fight next?
Let's do the Lopez fight. I mean, we could do the battle of the height chops, battle of the overrated fighters. I think they're like world class.
I mean, yeah, why not, man? Let's see that happen. All right, well, listen, K-Dog, anything else you want to say before we move
on? When's that Sue fight? Tim Sue?
It's in about 30-something minutes.
Okay, this should be this is a tune-up, right? As far as I can tell.
I mean, it's supposed to be, but Ocampo's pretty tough, let me tell you. He's pretty tough, he's big, he's strong. So Sue better not overlook this dude. That's all I'll say.
Okay, and why isn't that unification bout not happening? I thought that was supposed to happen ages ago.
Charlo was injured, right? I think that's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course
then again, listen. Yeah, man. Well, I'm going to say something about that, though. But, all right, listen, K-Dog, anything else you want to say before we move on?
Nope, that's it. I'm going to watch that Sioux fight and watch these UFC fights. I'll leave you guys to it. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, thank you for calling in, K-Dog. Take it easy out there. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. Call in. The phone number is right there in the left-hand middle portion of your screen. Fellas, let me tell you something here about this 140-pound division. Like most of you, I was pretty impressed when Regis Prograis stopped Chon Cepeda, that's Jose Cepeda, last year in November. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be a blowout the way Prograis... I mean, it was okay the first 3 rounds. It was competitive, and then afterwards Prograis just took over. Now, though, in that good old hindsight, I'm starting to wonder whether that performance was a little bit of an illusion, a mirage, if you will. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So, Jose Cepeda fought Josue OnlyFans Vargas on October the 30th, 2021. All right? And he didn't fight Prograis until November 26th. That's a year layoff. Now, nowadays, we expect 1 year layoffs. Well, with the whole thing of TV dates being very scarce, people getting injured more than ever for some reason, fighters maybe also choosing to be inactive. So we've come to expect 1 year layoffs. That being said, they're still significant. They significantly impact the boxer's timing, speed, reflexes, the whole shebang. So now I'm starting to think that did that year layoff affect Cepeda? Because if you look at Prograis, though, he fought Red Catch in 2021. That's April 2021, and that was a bizarre stoppage right there. Then he had a fight in March. So he was active in 2022 prior to the Chon Cepeda bout. So I don't know, man. I'm starting to rethink. I'm trying to reconfigure this whole dynamic here. Like the Functopus said too. Look, listen. Zorrilla was doing a lot of negative things in there, and he's also. If you saw the Barbosa fight, you will know that this guy was no scrub. In fact, Telkine's Pancration in the Discord, the BDA Discord that is, which I encourage you to join, said that this had the makings of an upset. And yours truly, Mr. BDA, also said that Zorrilla is a sharp fella who can present some problems if Prograis failed to show at 100%. So was this a case of Prograis not being 100%? I got to tell you, I suppose we're going to have to watch out and wait for the next one. But it is an interesting dynamic that we've got going on here in this division. Speaking of this division, which some people are now claiming is overrated and was overrated for the longest of times. Let's take a look at the division. We got Teofimo Lopez as the Undisputed. That's right, I said Undisputed. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that if I have the time. We have Josh Taylor at number 1. He might be moving up to 147. Prograis at number 2. Ramirez at number 3. Subriel the Murderer Matias at number 4. El Gato Jack Carroll at number 5. Barboza number 6. Chon still at 7. Gary Antoine Russell number 8. He's been inactive for a long time now. It's going to be more than a year, I believe. Ergashev in there as well. And Zandor Martin, who might have been rated higher had the decision against Teofimo Lopez gone his way last year. So you can see that it is a jam-packed division, but now people are starting to claim, was this an overrated division? Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, call in. The phone number's in the left-hand portion of your screen. Let's go to the phone calls here. Let's go to 513. 513, you're on the air. 513, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, brother, man? Great show. Heard you talking that good old 140 boxing.
That's right.
Hey, man, we talking about the best divisions in boxing, man. 135, 140.
Well, what about that caller? Because what about that caller? Because some people are saying that 140 pounds was overrated. That's what some people are saying.
No, not at all. No, boxing fans are the worst fans in sports. Not only do you got to win your fight, now you got to dominate the fight. So you telling me I can't just beat Tank Davis? I gotta dominate him? The guy's undefeated. Regis Prograis was undefeated, so of course it's gonna be difficult to take his hold from him. So we too hard on our fighters, man. And then, like you say, we get a win, and then we complain about robberies and saying, we just don't give you credit for tough fights. That's why if you fighting the best, it's gonna be tough. You got Devin Haney, Lomachenko. That's a 50-50 fight. And it turned out to be 50-50 when they got a ring.
So what do you think about Prograis then? Is Prograis still a threat to the champ in the division? That's Teofimo Lopez?
Without a doubt. He's a threat to Devin Haney and Teofimo and Tank Davis if he's ready to move up to 140. I think he can beat a lot of guys. I think he beats Garcia, Ryan Garcia, Roley. I think, he'd be favored in Devin Haney, and I think maybe he'd be underdog with T.O., maybe. But he's definitely a threat.
Well, I got to ask you, though.
What round did he end the fight this tonight?
Excuse me?
What round did he end the fight tonight?
It went the distance.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Now what you had asked me?
Who would you pick between Prograis and Lopez?
Oh, I go with the young lion from Brooklyn, T.O., man. I picked him to beat Josh Taylor. I think he's special, man. I think he's a special guy. Maybe a Hall of Famer.
Now, you mentioned the fact that...
He's definitely the number one of the four kings right now. He's number one. He did the most.
You mentioned that some fights are 50-50. Would that be a 50-50 fight, or so you give Teofimo Lopez the edge, though?
Yeah, I give him 55-45%, Ed.
All right.
I would love to see Haney go up there and challenge Prograis for that title, and then hopefully win, and then match up against T.O. But like the previous caller just said, these young guys do not want to fight each other. That's a fact. They do not want to fight each other. The four kings, Ryan, Devin, not Ryan, but Tank Davis, Devin Haney, T.O., and Shakur, it's like they stand away from each other.
You're absolutely right, caller. They like to,
You know?
to call each other out on Twitter. They have their representatives send out offers and then rescind them within days, so that they can always tell the public, oh, you see, we sent them an offer, they didn't reply in days, they're avoiding us. And that seems to be a lot of those type of hijinks involved in boxing today. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Now, hey, let me ask you this too. We've got Yes, go ahead.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
I wanted to ask you, Arnold Barboza is the guy that beat Zorrilla, I think, last year. So what do you think about a Barboza versus either Prograis or Teofimo Lopez?
Yeah, that's a safer fight for them. I think that's a safer fight. I think that's a safer fight than them fighting each other. And the number one fight, if Devin Haney want to make a statement, you got to put him in there with Regis or T, but Tio retired. So Lomachenko showed you why the young fighters are staying away from him. Tio showed you he don't have fear. Devin fought him, but Tank and Shakur, I think Loma would give them problems also. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, yeah, this Haney moving up to 140, that would be a good move. I think Bill Haney was in the crowd watching this Prograis fight, and I think he left before the decision was announced. I think he went to the nearest payphone to try to get his manager or maybe his son on the phone saying, you know what, maybe we can beat this guy. Maybe we can beat this guy and become a two-division titleist. So, I mean, that would be a good fight. Barboza's undefeated, but he's with Top Rank, so I don't know about that one. You got Subriel the Killer Matias. He's actually killed somebody in the ring. That's the guy that some people are calling the boogeyman.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right, but
I'm going to check him out.
Prograis is still out there, man. I'm not convinced that he sucks. I'm not convinced. Maybe he was a little bit overrated, but the guy that he fought was sharp today, so we'll see. I guess we can only wait and see how he does in his next fight. But listen, caller, I got to move on to here.
But this is what I want to say. I just want to leave you with this. I think Lomo will beat the other two kings. I think he will go 2-2 against the four kings. I think he will beat Shakur and he will beat Tank Davis if he get an opportunity.
Wow. All right. That's an interesting prediction right there, man. Wow. That's a good prediction right there, man. All right. Well, listen, thank you for your call. Call back next time, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Take it easy out there.
Yes, sir.
So there you see. Some fans still have hope for Lomachenko, but I got to tell you, Lomachenko's he's got to be quick in getting in the ring after this Haney fight because he's not getting any younger. He's 35 now, I think. He's older than fucking Prograis. And you saw what happened with Prograis today here. It's as you grow older in these lighter divisions, speed is of the utmost essence, and yeah, you can't just stay inactive. You really gotta chase the ball there, as it were. Fellas, don't forget to call in. We're still gonna be here for a while. I see that the Showtime main event has yet to start, so call in. Let us know what you thought about the Prograis fight. Let me tell you something about Prograis, though. There's a reason why he might have looked subpar tonight, and that's because he was putting pressure with his hands down. And I said that same thing about Teofimo Lopez before the Josh Taylor fight. I said that the reason why I had a hard time seeing Lopez putting pressure is because you saw what happened against Subriel Matias. You cannot pressure a fighter with your hands down. When you get your hands down and you're coming forward, you're gonna get hit. Because the guy that's putting pressure is the guy that has to stick his hand out of the cage to make something happen. So it's when you get a guy like Matias, Sandor Martin, who's looking to counter with one shot. That's how he's gonna play that, and he's gonna be ahead in that type of game. So if you're gonna pressure the fella, you gotta put your hands up. Mikey Garcia did it, but he just couldn't catch the fella. And it was the same team today here with Prograis. And listen, don't get me wrong, Prograis has done a good job of moving forward, because here's the difference between him and Teofimo Lopez. When Prograis comes forward, he moves the head. He feints. You could tell that he was feinting, changing levels because he wanted to catch Zorrilla with a overhand left. But after 5 rounds, when that wasn't happening, he should have switched it up. He should have started poking at the body, stabbing at the body, leading with some right hooks, just throwing a couple of different dimensions out there. He wasn't doing any of that. And I understand that Zorrilla is a complicated fighter. He's very good. He's a little jittery himself, but he's got good control of the distance, good footwork, sharp counters, even though they're not the hardest. Evidently, Prograis was hesitant to go in there. So there's two things we got to watch out for here with Prograis. One was, and he admitted it himself, fellas, after the fight. He says, I got to work. He said, I got to go back to the gym and work on some things. What's he saying? He's saying, I have some technical deficiencies that I got to iron out. Number two, he said before the Tank Davis-Garcia fight that Davis was going to win the fight because Garcia ain't got that dog. He just ain't got that dog. Now, when his friend Jermall Charlo was going through some hard times, and he's still going through some hard times, Prograis started saying, well, he's going through some hard times. But he didn't extend the same courtesy to Ryan Garcia. He referenced Garcia's mental state, mental problems. But with Charlo, he never said Charlo ain't got that dog. Well, I got to ask you, fellas, did Prograis fail to show that dog tonight? Because it was up to him to really make the fight happen, cut the ring off, cut off the avenues of escape, make something happen. Look, listen, when Inoue fought Paul Butler, and Butler was fighting very negative as well. Well, Inoue did what the top pound for pound, the cream of the crop, la crème de la crème of pound for pound fighters are supposed to do, which is when somebody's in that fighting in the negative or just fighting to survive, you're supposed to go above and beyond and knock that motherfucker out, which is what Inoue did. Gennady Golovkin back in the day, he would cut off the ring and really brutalize some fighters. When he fought the smaller Kell Brook, he brutalized them the way you're supposed to brutalize a smaller fighter. We saw Prograis taking on a guy that really just wanted to survive, who was slapping with some of his shots. And just those slaps they seemed to be enough to keep him honest, to prevent him from upping the ante. So I ask you fellas out there, does Regis Prograis have that dog? And is this now proof that maybe some fighters should, first of all, like we've been saying for 2 years now here on this show, stop saying that dog. He's got that dog. Just say he's got wherewithal, he's got balls. If you want to be crass about it, he's tough, he's tough-minded, he's got resilience, willpower, whatever synonym you wish to you wish to choose. This whole thing about he got that dog, you can only prove that in the ring. And although Prograis did prove it against Josh Taylor about 3 years ago, that was really a fight. You know what's interesting about that, fellas? People go, how come Josh Taylor looked good against Prograis, but then he looked like crap against Catterall? Well, again, styles make fights. Now, I know that's a blanket term that people just like to throw out there when they can't break down a fight, but allow me to tell you what I mean by that term here today. El Gato, Josh Catterall, is a 1-2 fighter clinch, 1-2 fighter clinch, a long 1-2. Prograis doesn't really do that. He likes to come forward, move that head, catch you in between shots, keep moving the head, mid-range, long range. That's what he does. But he's not really a guy that's going to stay away from his opponent and box circles. So when he fought Josh Taylor, both guys seemed to relegate themselves to saying, okay, you're going to come forward, I want to come forward, we both like digging to the body. Let's rock and roll, baby. That's what they did. It was not a long-range fight. And I actually expected Josh Taylor to box long-range in that fight. That's a fight that proved to me that Josh Taylor just ain't that good at long-range. Be that as it may, that's what happened. So Josh Taylor acquiesced, Prograis acquiesced, they went to war in the middle of the ring. Now it was up to Prograis to chase the guy down. He couldn't do it. Reminds me too now in hindsight, when he fought Terry Flanagan in the WSSB tournament. He dropped Flanagan, just like in this one. And then once Flanagan started to mind his P's and Q's, whoops, all of a sudden Prograis didn't have the openings required to really look spectacular, and it went the distance. And then in the last couple of fights, again, Juan Geraldes, unheralded. Ivan Redkach, that was a bizarre ending. Tyrone McKenna, he looked sensational in that one. But then again, Tyrone McKenna is a guy that people in, like Catterall have been as well. And then Jose Cepeda coming off a 1-year layoff. I'm still going to give Prograis the credit that he deserves for that win. Because let's face the facts, none of us expected him to look as dominant as he did against Cepeda. But I think it's fair to ask the question now, isn't it, fellas? Was that Cepeda win a little overrated, seeing as how Chon was away from it for a year? Toon says Tank is fighting Kambosos next. King Butcher says, yes, Lopez versus Catterall. Bro says, Zorrilla has the most awkward footwork. He does indeed. Effective footwork. I will say, effective footwork, but problematic for him because the reason why he got dropped was because he crossed his gosh darn feet. By the way, Zorrilla's footwork and stance, very bizarre. He sticks his ass out. I know you're supposed to do that when you're boxing and you're supposed to lean forward a little bit. This guy looks like he's got diapers. And I actually started thinking midway through the fight, I said, well, how come Prograis is so hesitant to get close to Zorrilla? And then at some point he was getting close to him and he was squinting and contorting his face. And I said, it looks like something smells bad. It looks like he's smelling something. Then I said, maybe Zorrilla shit his pants. And that's why Prograis doesn't want to get close to him. Then I said, now, you know what? That's my deviant imagination coming into play. That's not what happened. I'll give Zorrilla his credit. He's an awkward fighter. He's got good footwork. I also want to say something here before I'm looking at the Showtime fight here. Where are they at? 11th round of the Goodman-Alim fight. And I guess a lot of people didn't want to... It wasn't a significant fight, and maybe people are still watching the Showtime card. So I might end it soon. The phone lines are still open, so we still get about 10 minutes. But I will say this. Teofimo Lopez. There was some discussion that I saw on Twitter about whether he's the undisputed champ or whether he's the lineal champ. I'm going to go ahead and say undisputed. Because undisputed means that there is no dispute, right? Now, the counter-argument to that is, well, BDA, come on. Even if you want to play semantics, they're going to tell me. Even if you want to play semantics, Mr. BDA, the modern term now for undisputed means to gather all the belts. Well, here's the problem with that. Here's the big problem with that. The belts don't mean shit. The belts are... The alpha organizations are corrupt. When they're corrupt and they decide who they can place in the rankings and they can take away a belt when they feel like it, guess what, fellas? It holds no weight in my eyes and in the eyes of a lot of people. That's why when the WBA came up with the Super Championship back in 2002 and Ring Magazine said, all right, that's enough. We already have to deal with 3 championship belts. Now you want to create a 4th variety? And they said, fuck you. And guess what? Ring Magazine back in 2002, they looked ahead. They saw the mess that we were about to enter into because not only do we have to contend with the WBA super version of the title, for some reason, some assholes out there decided to give credence to the WBO. So now it's no longer 3 belts that you got to get to become a so-called undisputed. Now you got to get the WBO as well, which back in the 90s and early 2000s was considered a fringe belt only held by a bunch of European snobs. And then on top of that, now we've got the WBC, what do they call it? They've got 2 different championships here. Hold on. What's the one? They got the... I'm looking here. What's the division where they have... Like, for example, WBC. They got the world champion, which is Canelo. And they got Benavidez, who's the interim champion. What the fuck does that mean, an interim champion? You tell me you've... Okay, so WBC, if I ask you who's the champ, let's say you're a newbie. Who's the champ? And the fucking Juliman goes out there, he goes, well, Canelo Alvarez, he's the champ. And then you look at the rankings, you go, well, who the fuck is Benavidez? Why is he rated interim? Well, because the interim, and then they spew the bullshit that he's been spewing, him and his family, his ancestors have been spewing for 2,000 plus years. I mean, come on, man. And then look at the WBA super champ as well. And then you get the IBF, they're going to come out with their fucking interim champions as well. So fellas, check this out. As super middleweight, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 title holders. You still want to come at me and tell me, well, you got to win all the belts to be undisputed? Fuck you, man. This is why I've been saying, we saw how Zorrilla fought today. Hey, you people like that, don't you? You like the running type. It's not running, it's a sweet science. It's not clinching, it's veteran tactics. Well, you just saw what we saw here. Horrible fight. Hope you enjoyed it. And you motherfuckers out there that are still giving credence to these belts and saying, well, he's got to beat all the champs, all the title holders to be undisputed. You're a fucking sheep. You're a scumbag in my eyes. If you were in front of me, I'd spit on you and your wife, too, probably, and your sons and kids. ugly ass kids, because I'm willing to bet you got ugly ass kids. Anyway, fellas, I'm rambling here because I've had enough. Teofimo Lopez beat the man who beat the man who beat the man. You're really telling me that there's a dispute to his reign? And now here's the other thing that I was thinking about. I was thinking about this because some people could say, well, listen, BDA, whether you agree or not with the title designations, you still have to admit that people who hold titles could be what you would call contenders. And I've said that before too. Some of these guys, title holders, I'll refer to them as top contenders because they're some of the top fighters out there. But even if you want to designate Undisputed solely on the basis of collecting all the belts, that's still problematic because Devin Haney has all the belts, right? But he didn't beat all the title holders. He beat one guy. You see where I'm going with this? So if you really want to boil it down to put semantics out of the way, Undisputed just means there's no dispute. Forget about collecting all these straps, these baubles of men's vanity. It's about who you beat. And if you beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, you're undisputed. So Teofimo Lopez, to me, is undisputed. And I really want to do a show. I haven't had time to do any shows lately, but I want to do a show to really get to the nitty-gritty of what I just said and see if anybody disagrees with me. I'm open-minded. Hey, maybe we do need these titles, as bad as they may be. But I disagree. I think they just muddy the water, and I think a lot of the fighters, a lot of the fans that go along with it are just sheep. Go along. What do they say? Get along to go along, or whatever they call it, and they just don't want to rock the system. In my eyes, Teofimo Lopez is the undisputed junior welterweight champion, and I think he's supposedly one of the commentators today said that he hasn't vacated the WBO belt. But if he did, it's a smart move because he's sticking it to these alphabet organizations. First of all, these alphabet organizations take money away from you, and if you don't play by their rules, or if you piss them off enough, they will take the belt away from you. And meanwhile, you're the one that's paying for them just to get together and work out the rankings. Or if you want to call a meeting to make a dispute or claim make a complaint or something, they charge you for that. So Teofimo Lopez is saying, look, fuck you. I got the lineal belt. I got the Ring Magazine belt at least. I'm not going to pay you cocksuckers. He's making a statement. He's saying, fuck the alphabet belts. I got to tell you, Teofimo Lopez, he still says all the wrong things. Him and his father are still annoying as fuck, but I like the move. And I also like the fact that he called out the ESPN for their race agenda. So it just goes to show you, no one is completely evil, no one's completely dumb. He's got good qualities. Same thing with me. Hey, how many times do I say dumb shit? But I always make it up for you with good shows and integrity and information on how to stay on the true path of the Crimson Cross. I see that the main event is about... Is it about to start? Hold on a sec. Well, they're in their dressing rooms, and this fight is taking Australia, mate. Zoo's home country, so I expect a long, prolonged walkout. So I'm going to stay here for a little bit more. The phone lines are still open in case anybody wants to call in. Let me see if... I see that Gonzalo's there. Going to invite Gonzalo, see if he wants to jump on, say a couple of words about what we saw. I'm going to call the Bucho Meister as well. Maybe, yeah, I'm going to call Jimmy Reno too. I know he's usually up at this time of the day. Hold on a second. Where's Gonzalo? Oh, he's got 2 accounts now. By the way, somebody asked, is BDA drunk? No, I'm not drunk. But I'm about to, because I got a beverage here that I've been meaning to down since I started this broadcast. Gonzalo, we got Gonzalo here. Gonzalo, can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going, Mr. BDA?
Doing fantastic. Hope you're doing fantastic as well. Gonzalo, we got a couple of minutes here before the Ocampo fight starts. What did you make of Prograis' performance?
Prograis. 140 pounds, the champion, considered to be the top guy right now. Look, I think, and I said it before, he's a fighter kid that's got in between 2 styles. He tries to be a little bit of sweepy, but we know he can crack. So he can actually, with the power that he has, that God gave him, he can actually go for the kill more than what he displayed today. Now, do you have to wonder, is that because he doesn't trust in his chin? Well, he's displayed a good chin in the past. I think with Prograis, he tries to sneak punch you. Like, he tries to get you with his first shot. He moves at the waist. And if he can get a good punch in where he rocks you, then only until then will he follow up. Like Jab Zuda says, if you can land once, you can land twice. So only until then will Prograis go for broke. Will go for the kill and commit. So Zorrilla, you know how you said he was popping his ass out, and he was kind of looking a little stiff, like a little worried. He didn't fall prey for that first big punch. That's why he was kind of like nervous. But at the same time, he was nervous enough to stay on his toes, although looking a little like rusty, like he needed oil in his joints. He was able to get away from that first shot and not really get clipped, except with the knockdown in the third round, which he wasn't really hurt by that. And I do think that Prograis did get knocked out in the first. So yeah, I think the whole sticking the ass out backwards, it's like he's ready. He's getting ready to like not so much prepared to like dodge a punch, but he's looking to dodge. But as soon as you dodge, he can step in. So he's kind of like leaning in already, leaning in because he can punch. So he's basically saying, he's thinking in his mind, okay, I know you're trying to surprise me with the first big punch, but I'm a puncher too. And if you miss, I'm going to catch you. And that's why the fight kind of played out the way it did. Fucking Regis Prograis wasn't necessarily looking like Hurricane Katrina in there. No, he wasn't.
Not even, he wasn't looking like El Nino in there. But by the way, you mentioned that sticking the ass out, and you know they used to call that jabbing from the back seat, even though he wasn't jabbing that much. But the point remains, he was looking to get out of the way as soon as he connected. That's why his punching selection didn't have that much power. You're absolutely right. That's why the Functopus, or I think it was a Functopus, but somebody compared the Zandor Martin fight when Zandor Martin fought Lopez, and it's true. It was this type of performance. One guy looking to tap and get away, and the other guy. But I mean, you gotta, like you said, Prograis. It's also a little bit of Prograis' fault, like you said, caught between two styles, not putting your hands up to put pressure. You know, do you think people now, Gonzalo, are realizing that to put pressure on and cut the ring off and really be a good pressure fighter takes a lot of skill? It's not just like people boxing off the back foot. Oh, that's real skill. No, putting pressure on, cutting the ring off, fucking a guy up, that's real skill too, right? Gonzalo, you still there? I can't hear you, Gonzalo, but I mean, I think Gonzalo made some excellent points about that. It's when you're fighting a guy that just wants to get out of the way. Look, I understand it's not easy. I understand it's not easy to fight a guy that just wants to survive. But my contention is, if you want to be considered cream of the crop, and we're being very selective here, we set the bar high. If you want to be top 5 pound for pound, you're going to have the type of skills where you're going to be able to cut the ring off against a guy that just wants to survive. Inoue did it to Paul Butler. Prograis couldn't do it to Zorrilla.
Yeah, style pressure. That's when you'll finally get it, dude. So you can't come in with the cut into style with that type of approach. You can't come in with that type of approach because
Gonzalo,
you're not going to get.
Sorry to interrupt you, because I think you cut off and I didn't hear your answer. Maybe I didn't hear the full answer. So maybe if you just want to restart it. Yeah, I can't hear you, Gonzalo. I'm pretty sure you're trying to talk now. Jump out and jump back in, man. Because I want to hear what you got to say. I'm writing to him because I don't think he can hear me either. Eddie Valenzuela says, yeah, he looked heavy-footed. I don't think it was... I don't know about the heavy-footed there, but... he didn't look good, man. I'll say that much. And again... Zorrilla didn't make... he made Barboza look... I mean, he gave him a competitive fight too. But today, Prograis also showed his lack of fundamentals in there. When it came to putting... Yeah, Gonzalo, I'm going to kick you out because I can't hear you, man. And I think you can't hear me. So I'm going to kick you out and then incorporate you into the stream here. Let me just check real quick the fight here, see what's going on. The fuck, they're playing UFC now. On my connection here, what the heck's going on? Guerrero Info says Sweet Pea definitely had the advantages they gave these Amero bombs, but he had skill. Rest in peace. I mean, I'm pretty sure people are gonna start throwing that Amero bomb label now to Prograis. after tonight because he looked unable to cut the. Gonzalo, you're back. Can you hear me? Gonzalo, can you hear me? Write to me in the chat if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the when people say that, like, oh, it takes more skill to fight off the back foot than it does coming forward. I think this performance is emblematic, or it's a great example to show people that that's not always the case. You want to be able to cut the ring off, stump a guy who just wants to survive. That takes real skill as well, right?
I believe so, BD. You know, obviously, if you just think about, like, it would probably be more natural to, like, walk forward and easier to walk forward than it does backward. But when you're walking forward and you're throwing your hands at the same time, it's like you got to be real coordinated, hands and feet. That's four limbs. When you're running backwards, you're basically just stepping back with the tip of your toes, and you're not real too concerned about even putting your hands up. And people try to sell that to you, like these boxers. Oh, look at him. He's dropping his hands. He must be great. But obviously, he learned something in the ring, and which is kind of easy once you understand how to gauge the distance. And you're a runner, basically fighting scared and trying to, like, only surprise the dude when you get an opportunity. Hey, that's not real talent. That's not real talent. Basically, it just says that you got good legs. You could basically be like a ballerina, but maybe not like a fucking fighter, a guy that comes to fight.
You know, listen, I
That's
hate
why
to
Juan
throw
Manuel Marquez would always say, BDA, that he would prefer to fight Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao actually comes to fight as opposed to Mayweather. He offers you something. With Mayweather, he's only just stepping back, and looking to surprise you as soon as he can find a mistake. Doesn't come to fight.
Exactly, that's a good point, and you made a great point. Some people see, especially newbies, they see a guy with quick hands, low hands, a lot of shoulder roll and all that, and they go, wow, this guy must be good. You know, people used to, the reason why Guerrero de la Info used the term Ameribomb is because there used to be this ugly stereotype about Europeans back in the 90s and 2000s. Like, oh, this guy, Calzaghe, Svenotki, so like Eubank and all those fellas, they're Eurobombs. I mean, you could say the same thing about some of these guys, like the guy that just lost to Villa in 147. Quick fighter and all that. He couldn't keep a guy off of him. Adrian Broner proved to be an Ameribomb. Montana Love, Ameribomb. And we could just go on and on about this. But people see some of these guys with their hands down, a lot of flash, and they think, oh, wow, these guys should be good. Now, you got to really prove it. And Prograis' deficiencies, when it came to a guy not giving him that many openings, I thought he was going to be able to time him at some point, and he didn't. He seemed lost in there. Gonzalo,
yeah, he sure did.
I got two phone calls here. Let me just go to the phone calls here. Who do we got here? We got 559. 559, you're on the air. 559, what's on your mind?
I'm Rick Mirigian. I manage Jose Ramirez, and I manage Arnold Barboza. And I can tell you that after what I saw tonight, he's not ready for either one of those guys, let alone is going to get a tune-up fight in between. And he's got to go back to the drawing board, I think, at this point.
Wait a minute, are you really Rick Mirigian?
Yes. I manage quite a few guys. Virgil Ortiz, Josh Franco, fights for a world title next Saturday. Just, I like Regis too. Respect him a lot. Great fighter, but this was the point that I was trying to prove to everybody out there. When Barbosa just had a chance to fight him, they offered him a ridiculous amount of money, $200,000. Arnold would have got $100,000, which is about 3 times less than he makes now as a minimum to fight Prograis. They didn't want to pay him, a fair amount of money, for the fight. And Arnold was still going to take the fight on 4 weeks' notice. But, that's why Arnold didn't fight him. With Ramirez was going to fight Regis. He petitioned the WBC. He needed a higher split because, Ramirez makes quite a bit of money. He was willing to take less, but they wouldn't adjust the split to 40%. 40 for Ramirez, 60 for Prograis. So the fight didn't happen. If they would have agreed to the 60% for Prograis, that fight would have happened. So these guys far from ducked him in any capacity, but it's probably in his favor after,
watching tonight. I think he needs one more in between. But Barbosa would fight him now. Ramirez, they just got to pay the right amount, fair amount of money.
Well, first of all,
and just here's a great thing for your show. Here's a great note for your show. You'll love this.
I don't.
Barbosa had already agreed to fight Prograis. If Prograis had signed with Top Rank, his first fight was Barbosa. We already agreed on a purse with Top Rank for Barbosa to fight Regis also. So that was already done. Second he signed, you would have seen him fight against Barbosa. Then Ramirez next. So, but I'll answer any questions you have.
I appreciate you calling in and giving your opinion because, there's a lot of, nowadays with modern boxing, it's very hard to keep track of who said what. There's a lot of he said, she said, contracts get sent and then rescinded within days so that one side can say, see, the other side never replied or they're docking us, and that's how it stays. Let me ask you this, though. With Prograis not looking that great, and then I saw, I don't know, the crowd, he was in his hometown, and I saw, I think they put the tarp out, or they had to curtain some of the areas because it didn't look like...
Yeah, there's only about 2,000 people. Look, Regis is a marketable fighter. He always has been. He's got a horrible PR team. They don't know how to market him. His manager didn't market him prior either. Like, how he did the little jog, those were great ideas when he would jog around the city and invite him out. Like, the PR guy's supposed to go and do his job and get people to run with him, get other pro athletes from Louisiana, call the Boys and Girls Club, get 200 kids to run with him. They just don't know how to market. Go to all the big unions in Louisiana. Get the unions that have 5,000 and 10,000 workers, 1,000 workers. Invite them to the fight. Hell, give them the tickets for free to come and support him. They got to build him there. But again, he didn't have a real team to know what to do with him. He is an extremely marketable fighter, talented, but they don't know what they're doing. Eddie Hearn was the first person to get behind him and do what you saw tonight. But you can't do it in one night. Matchroom stepped up, spent a lot of money to put him there, and they know they got to start him off there. But he just didn't have any real PR management or hustle done prior. That was the problem with what you saw tonight. Crowd-wise.
To be fair, in terms of crowd, I would suspect that it's difficult to get too many people in there, even in his hometown, against the guys like Zorrilla, who just hardcore fans knew who he was. So.
No, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. When you have a fighter that's that good, probably the best of his generation to ever come out of there, and Louisiana, period, it doesn't matter who he's fighting. It's like a Canelo situation in a smaller way. You build a guy that can fight that good and has that good of a personality and is that marketable, you build him in that town. And it doesn't matter if he's fighting you or me, the people will come. It's amateur hour with the management and the PR before. That's all it was. Now, Ramirez draws 15,000 people to Fresno 13 times in a row for a reason, because he was built properly there in his hometown. That's what you have to do with Regis. He has all the attributes to do that. It just never got done.
All right, so Jose wants Prograis, or who does he want to fight next?
With the WBO situation and Teofimo retiring, if the WBO actually orders the vacant fight, then Ramirez would end up fighting Barbosa for the WBO vacant title. If the WBO doesn't order the vacant fight, then you're going to see a whole different myriad of options happen. There's just a bunch of stuff that I don't even know who both those guys will fight. Because right now Barbosa could fight Regis. He would fight him. Matchroom could make an offer for him. They can make an offer for Ramirez to fight him. But I don't think that they're going to do that with what they saw. They're good promoters. They'll get him one more fight, make sure that this was just a bad night to double check before they do that. That's what I think will happen.
But this whole thing about one more fight, he did fight, he looked good against McKenna, talking about Prograis. He looked good against McKenna last year in April or March, and then he looked sensational against John Cepeda. Are we supposed to believe that it was rust? That was the case for him looking subpar tonight?
So let me answer that like this. It's one thing for Taylor to have a bad night with Lopez. It's another thing for Prograis to have a bad night with a fighter like Zorrilla. It's not the same thing. If this was a bad performance against a higher-end opponent, no big deal. They've got to really see if he can still fight at the next level. they've got to do that. And in order to do that, they got to get him another fight in between just to check and see if it's still there. But this is not just an off night and no big deal. This is an off night against an opponent like you saw tonight. Again, Barbosa dominated the same opponent. Dominated him. Won every round. Never got hit. Did a modeling gig after the fight. Controlled the fight the entire time. There's a perfect example for you right there. And Prograis called Barbosa average at his press conference and his media interviews. Barbosa's far from average. And I think it's clearly seen tonight in the way that they both fought the same opponent.
All right, now people in the chat want me to ask you a couple of questions here. Arm is saying, is Top Rank resigning Jose Ramirez after his next fight?
We don't know. Those are things I'll be dealing with for both fighters over the next month.
All right.
We love Top Rank. Top Rank is a tremendous company, but we've got to see if the deals are going to be right and the fights will be right. There's a good chance that happens, but yes, they both could potentially be free.
Eddie Valenzuela in the chat says, ask him if they'll sign Regis next after 3 fights.
No, absolutely not. No, I don't
okay,
think,
so wait.
I don't think anyone is going to do that.
All right. Hey, let me ask you this. My question. I know you got into...
I take that back. That's wrong. There is a possibility, of course, if this was a bad fight and he can, win another fight or two in the third fight of his deal over there looked tremendous, yeah, he would get re-signed by anyone at that point. So that wasn't fair for me to say.
I know Jack squat about boxing, managing, or promoting. I just watch it. Signing a guy who's 34, I don't know if that's such a good investment, man.
It depends. If he wins these next 3 fights, yes, it'll make for a big fight. Even if he stays in shape, there's plenty of guys in history that at 35, 36 that were in big fights, competitive, have won, but the odds are against it, like you're saying. So yeah, but it's very possible that it could happen where he still could keep fighting at 35, 36, but tonight is not a good indication of that.
All right, now let me ask you this too.
Can I ask a question, BDA?
Absolutely, Gonzalo. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so Zorrilla had 13 KOs in 17 fights. So obviously, maybe we could consider him a puncher. And Regis got dropped in the first round. Do you think that kept them hesitating? And we know that Barbosa, he dominated Zorrilla, so that means that maybe Barbosa's a good boxer with a good chin. So it's basically a 2-part question in regards to Regis and
Barbosa is a phenomenal boxer. Barbosa is one of the best boxers that's out there, period. He can box. He can move. He knows what to do in the ring. He is what you would call a true boxer. Absolutely. And then watching the fight, when I saw him get dropped in the first round, to be honest, I just thought it's a mistake. It happens. I thought he was going to get up and stop him in 3 or 4 rounds. That's what I thought was going to happen. I just thought he pissed him off more than anything. I didn't think anything other than Regis would still stop him in that fight. But I think Zorrilla, he had the opportunity of a lifetime, and he took his foot off the gas. There were so many moments that if he stayed aggressive and didn't run, that he possibly could have won that fight. And I think the lack of experience is what caused that. I mean, he had a chance to be a world champion, and he didn't go after it. He didn't. Zorrilla didn't capitalize on what was in front of him tonight. And he fought a hell of a fight, as you saw. But that's the difference in a champion and just a guy that's okay.
Hey, is Barbosa, this is one thing that I've always been curious, is he of Mexican descent?
He is. Barbosa sold out the casino near his hometown for his fight against Zorrilla.
Well, I mean, that's great, but let me ask you this. So from a managing standpoint, have you thought about getting him to start playing up the Mexican angle a little bit more? Because Shakur Stevenson recently started playing up the Puerto Rican angle, the whole Boricua. Oh, yeah, my father, he's Puerto Rican, I have Puerto Rican. Is that something that you'd be interested in looking at?
Yeah, well, he does. He's proud of his heritage, and Top Rank puts it out there. Arnold just hasn't had the marquee fight yet to where it's seen by the masses. But you'll see a strong Hispanic promotion and heritage when Barbosa fights next. He'll be in a big fight next no matter what. Whether it's Prograis, Ramirez, or someone else, you're gonna see that. But yeah, it's been done. It's just he hasn't had the marquee fight yet. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, BDA, Rick, he does wear them trunks like Julio Cesar Chavez back in the 90s that used to have taesa on the front with them turquoise color, very Mexicanish. The trunks that Barbosa wears.
Yeah, he needs. I'll tell him that he needs to do that. That's real history right there. People will love that. I'll tell him.
You gotta do it in increments, though. You gotta do it in increments because if he's never done it before and he does it from one day to the next, it's gonna look a little bit disingenuous. A little bit. That's all I'm saying. But hey, listen.
Yeah, once is good.
Josh Taylor got into it with you during the Jose Ramirez weigh-in, right? Was that you that he pointed a bottle
he
at?
did.
Right. So how did you feel about?
His team and him surrounded me outside by myself. Got into it with me in there as well, and that's exactly what happened. And then after the fight, he was an absolute gentleman, and he came into the dressing room to see me, and he said, "You are a tremendous manager, and you're one of the best. I respect you, and you've done a hell of a job for your guys." And that's what he came in afterwards. And then, after that, we would exchange some text messages here and there. Look, Taylor is that fighter that mentally goes to a different place before he fights. But he is a very respectful fighter and has a lot of, humble actions after that fight is done. But he just gets himself into a fight mode like no other guy I've ever seen. It's what made him such a great champion. It's what allowed him to do what he did. He's got one of the best resumes in boxing. If you look at a guy and you go down the list, the guys that he beat to get where he was as a unified champion and undisputed, there's nothing out there like it. He fought the best of the best at every time.
I'm going to ask you to speculate a little bit here, just a little bit. Do you think he would have been as gracious and magnanimous as he was if your guy had gotten the win?
I do, because he showed it after the Lopez fight, which was even a more aggressive approach that he had than us. He is a very respectful guy. He is a humble guy. It's just when he has a fight coming up and he's going to fight, he goes to a different place mentally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what some guys need to do, or just, maybe it's got to do with making weight too. Some guys get a little pesky before that. So when it comes to Teofimo Lopez, do you believe that he has indeed retired?
Look, it's we were waiting because Ramirez was supposed to fight Lopez. That was what the plan was. So I was shocked when he announced his retirement stuff. He's a very smart young fighter, even though he does outlandish, crazy things. He's very smart. So at first I thought the retirement piece was to garner more ink and interest in media, and it was a great idea. But he's gone a little far with it, calling the WBO president and telling him that he is vacating it. The WBO president putting on social media that he's been called and Teal's vacating the belt for sure. But like most things in life, you have to follow actions, not words. The fight hasn't been ordered yet. The vacant fight has not been ordered. So the WBO has, even though they've acknowledged that he's vacating it, they haven't vacated it, and for obvious reasons. They're probably waiting and giving him some time, even though he said it's done, which legally should be all someone needs to say. But they're giving him time because he is a very big name fighter with a lot of attention, draws a lot of eyeballs to a network, and at the end of the day, produces a lot of money for a fight. So, I think that they're going to wait a little bit. I don't think that they're going to do what he said, which causes problems in the division with fights that can be made immediately now. So I think we're going to have to wait a while more to find out. But I do think that it's partially serious, but it's not 100% at this point, or they would have ordered a vacant title fight between Ramirez and Barbosa.
Yeah, that makes sense. And especially with the world's his oyster right now, I really doubt that he... if I were a betting man, which I'm not, but if I had to bet, I would say that he probably stays put for a little bit, weighs his options, and then he's going to return. Well, listen, Rick, I don't want to keep you off here.
I got to eat my words with Lopez. Lopez proved the world wrong, proved me wrong, made me eat my words. His performance was nothing short of spectacular, and he absolutely earned himself a star with that fight. Like he can make any big fight that he wants right now and make a lot of money, and he deserves it. He went out and did the impossible, and that's what he's done prior. I can't be any more happier for him, and I argue with him all the time. But man, he deserves a lot of credit for what he did.
I mean, he stepped up and took it, man. That's all that anybody can really do, and of the fighters, that's all we can ask as boxing fans. Listen,
And
Rick,
he entertained us while he fought. Not very many guys can entertain you while they're beating a person like Taylor, the best in the world. He was a showman in the ring. Ali liked what he did. You know, being able to put that kind of show on as well as a tremendous fight.
He certainly did. Hopefully, he doesn't overlook future opponents, because we saw some of that after the Lomachenko fight. But look, listen, Rick, I don't want to keep you here. So if you gotta go, you let me know. But this was an impromptu call, and we're happy to get.
Fine. I'm fine. If you have any more questions, there's no problem.
Well, if I were to, I'm going to ask you to speculate here. With Jose Ramirez, boxing is topsy-turvy. One day you look bad, the next you look good. Jose Ramirez, for a little while there, was looking a little shaky. Like against Pedraza. I know Pedraza is a good contender, but he didn't exactly blow the audience away with that one. Then he takes out Comey. He looks like he's back. Was there ever a problem? What I'm getting at is, was there ever a problem with Ramirez post-Taylor? Did that loss affect him somewhat, where his mentality was a little shaky afterwards?
Of course, he's a human being. Any fighter, any human being in a situation like that, it's going to affect him, because he knew he could have won that fight. He won 6 of the 12 rounds. The knockdown when Bayless went in there and acted like he was put his hand out to break him. And Jose's a very respectful fighter, always has been. So Jose thought what we all thought, he was doing a break. That's when the knockdown happened. It did the most damage, But he knows that if he would have protected himself in that fight, that it would have been a different outcome. And that's what ate him up. That's what bothered him. And then it wasn't easy for Jose to get up and fight Pedraza. Jose is a different kind of fighter, like a Taylor also, like a Prograis. And I think that's part of Prograis' problem tonight. When you're around those kind of fighters, they don't get mentally up for fighting a regular guy or anything less than a big name. They mentally have a tough time preparing. They prepare different for big fights. It brings out a different level in them versus regular guys. And I think Prograis suffered from that a little bit tonight. That Prograis, mentally just couldn't get up for this guy. It probably was one of the worst guys he's fought in I don't know how long. But these fighters are like that at this level. The special ones, they don't perform well against regular guys after they consistently fight the best of the best. And I think maybe Taylor went into the Lopez fight the same way, just thinking he would beat him easily, like I thought, like everyone else thought. So I just think that those guys are different with the big fights, And for Lopez, that's what it was. Remember, Lopez looked horrible against his prior 2 opponents. Looked horrible against Sandor Martin, and I can't even remember the guy before that. But those 2 fights, he looked pathetic. But he got up for the big one, as you saw. When the challenge was put in front of him, he was a different fighter. And they're all like that. All those guys are like that.
Well, have you gone at it with Prograis? Because I'm not a big Twitter guy, but have you been going at it with Prograis in the past year?
All the time.
And what are you going to tell him after tonight? Are you planning on tweeting? Have you tweeted already?
I already said it. I already posted a bunch on my Instagram and my Twitter. There's nothing that's disrespectful. I would never disrespect him. He's an amazing fighter, but he talks shit back to me too respectfully, But you can't say you're the best 140 after tonight. You can't. Not after struggling with Zorrilla.
I'm looking at Twitter here. Let me read what you wrote. I think I don't know if this is the latest one, or it says, I like and respect Regis, and he knows that both fights would have got done. We had already. No, I think that's an old one. Let me try to find out here what you wrote exactly. All right, I see one from half an hour ago. Says Prograis had a bad night. It happens, but you can't have a bad night against an opponent like that. He gets one more tune-up and will still be a dangerous fight for anyone. But he can't stay fuck Lopez. I think you meant to say he can't say fuck Lopez, Taylor, Ramirez, or Barboza anymore. I would go after Broner or Garcia after tonight. So wait a minute. So you think he's gonna go after I mean, you're saying that you would go after Broner, but do you think he should? You think he needs one more tune-up, or you think he's ready to go?
No, I mean, I think that, you know, if he was looking at the financial aspects of his career after the performance tonight, I would target Garcia and Broner if I was him. If I was trying to get a payday and still make a lot of money. I mean, those two guys, I think he could, you know, be okay with potentially. I don't think he could fight a 140 elite guy next, at least. It'd be another fight after that.
Now, you're very much what I would call a modern manager. You have an internet presence. You use social media to your advantage to keep your fighter's name out there. But you also seem to get into it with a lot of people there. Who are some of the people that you've gotten into it the most on Twitter? Any fellow YouTubers? Any big personalities? Let's drop some names here.
Just different. Look, it's all different. I'm not disrespectful to anyone, but when they're disrespectful to me, I'm going to go at them and take their head off with facts, though. You know, a lot of these guys, they speak without facts. So I'll, you know, go back at them and use facts. But you know, there's tons of people. Regis is PR director, the guy that handles his PR for 3 years. You'll see me saying something to him right now, you know, on there if you look, not too long ago. You know, it's those kind of guys who, like, the guy called me a troll, and my fighter are gonna fight for a California belt, like trying to be funny and disrespect the situation. And then you have to put a guy like that in his place, and you have to let him know that he's an idiot. That's, you know, so that happens quite often. You know, like a guy like that, Regis should have fired years ago. He's fucking worthless, and you can tell by looking at the arena tonight. And I told him that. You should have been fired by Regis, and you're fucking worthless. You don't even know how to do your job, but you're telling someone like me who has a record for the purses that I've negotiated for my fighters and put on the fights myself, like you've seen for Ramirez 13 times in a row for 15,000 people myself. So, you know, when an idiot says something like that, you got to just let him know he's an idiot.
Now, yeah, that's an interesting thing about that, because some of the fighters you're managing are aligned with Top Rank, or actually promoted by Top Rank. That's a well-oiled machine that has been at it for about 40 plus years. When you look at other guys like Prograis, I'm not a behind-the-scenes type of guy. I don't follow negotiations all that much. I just watch the fights. But Prograis at one point was with Top Rank, then he was with PBC, then he fought on that Jake Paul undercard, then now he's back on the zone with Eddie Hearn. So what's up with a guy like that who refuses to stay put with one, you know, well-reputed promotion?
He's a fighter. Look, he's a fighter. You have to understand that. He's not a manager. He's not a business person dealing with the sport. He's a fighter. That wasn't his fault. He was there to fight. So you have to look at the management side of stuff and the people around him. If Prograis would have aligned with Top Rank and made the right deal, he would be one of the biggest fucking stars right now and making as much or more than anyone in the sport. So you have to look at that trajectory, and you have to look at the people around him and who he's hired to make those decisions, and that's it. If you asked him, I'm sure if he'd be honest and tell you that there were a lot of mistakes made. But he has that type of talent and personality, and did. But, you know, floating around and with a fighter with that type of personality and talent, you don't do. You park him with the biggest and the best promoter with the biggest network, and you negotiate your ass off to secure him, and then you let the engine do the rest. That's what happened.
That's a sensible way of looking at it. Again, it's what I think what most boxers should do, but I guess most boxers just want to have... would it be fair to say that most boxers want the most independence meaning they want to be able to call the shots. They want to have a Sugar Leonard type of arrangement where they have their lawyer. They're not aligned with any big time promoter, and they're more or less independent. Is that a reality? Is that feasible for fighters today?
It is, but you can't manage a fighter and not be honest with them and truthful. To get to a point to be able to do that, you have to have made the right deal with the right promoter that branded you, built you, matched you, marketed you. Then you get to a point like a Canelo and a Mayweather and a De La Hoya. You get to that point where you can make those decisions. But you're in a la land, and you're in a fairy tale world if you think that you can do that in the early stages of a fighter's career or even an early champion. You can't. Sugar Ray Leonard was brought along by Arum and Top Rank for a long portion of time. I mean, and you can pick Pacquiao, Cotto, all these guys, De La Hoya, Mayweather. They got to a point where they could make those decisions. But they knew that the engine that built them and matched them and promoted them was a necessity. You wouldn't have a Floyd Mayweather today or an Oscar De La Hoya if you didn't have a Top Rank. They wouldn't exist.
That's true. Some people just want that easy payday. I mean, for a while there, it seemed like Teofimo Lopez wanted to have that type of deal despite a contractual obligation with Top Rank. Now, in the chat, Parukua is asking a good question. He says, can you ask Rick what he's heard about ESPN getting out of boxing? Now, that's something that we heard a while back. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, that's not true at all. ESPN is not going to get out of boxing. All you have to do is look at the numbers after the fights that they publish. You know, you got 1 million plus people watching these fights with Top Rank when they happen. You know, they're not going to go anywhere with the sport. They've invested a lot of money with Top Rank to create stars, Shakur Stevenson, and Teofimo Lopez as an example. You know, they've made a long-term plan. The network wouldn't put that type of time and money to build these guys and then be gone next year. So no, that's not going to happen.
Well, that's good to hear, man. Because
I got a question, BDA.
Absolutely, Gonzalo.
After you're done, after.
No, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask another, but I'll ask that one later. It came to mind since you mentioned that about ESPN. The whole Ryan Garcia versus Oscar De La Hoya situation, Rick. Since you're a manager, not saying that you would necessarily know exactly, but why did Oscar De La Hoya put the lawsuit to begin with? The one that initiated it.
It's been reported out there from a number of publications, from ESPN and Mike Coppinger and others. You know, Garcia's side fired first. You know, they sent a legal letter over demanding certain things that prompted Oscar to take action and protect his contractual rights, because the letter that they were sent was just a precursor to what was going to come. Oscar reacted in an offensive manner to position himself, and that's what you're seeing.
Gonzalo, did you have a follow-up question to that, or
not to that? But yeah, okay. I'll ask that later if you're still around. Just don't want to change the subject because maybe you want to follow up on that.
No, but you brought up a great question about that, because Rick, as a manager, you look out for your fighters' interests. What about that? Ryan Garcia, I can appreciate the spirit that he showed against Tank Davis, saying, look, whatever he wants, give it to him, rehydration clause, catch weight, whatever. In hindsight, I know it's 2020, it's easy to say, but would you, if you're managing a guy, are you going to now, after what we saw with Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, are you going to be extra picky about any of these type of clauses in contracts?
Look, it's as simple as this. I'll give you my opinion. I wouldn't have agreed to a clause like that if I was managing Garcia. I wouldn't have put him in that fight either at this point. He was too powerful of a star. He was still emerging. It wasn't time yet for that fight. He still was one of the highest paid fighters in boxing. He still was making millions of dollars fighting the guys he was. So if I was managing in that situation, I wouldn't have put him in that fight with Tank at that point. I would have still continued to have him fight good and decent guys and I would have waited for a super fight like that a little bit longer. That's just what I would have done. But again, maybe he has his reasons. I don't know. He's the one that sold the pay-per-view, in my opinion. You need two guys to make a big fight. But in my opinion, he was the X factor without question that took it to the million mark sales-wise. He's a unique anomaly that has a powerful presence. So in my opinion, he's so young. What's the point of rushing him into a fight with a guy like Tank at that point? I mean, he needed more experience, a couple more looks of guys, getting better and better with his opponent before he fought a Tank. That's just my opinion. And again, it's a tough world. These guys are going to go back and forth, promoters and a fighter. In my world with what I do, look, you try to avoid these type of situations the best you can along the way. When you see there's a problem and you're a manager, your moral or ethical duty is to try to solve that fucking problem best you can behind the scenes at that point. So, if there's issues that pop up, you as a manager, you got to try to do all you can so that it doesn't get bigger and bigger and bigger and then blow up and end up in a situation that you can't fix. So, I only think that court situation and the lawsuits, and that needs to be the last and final result after, you've exhausted everything along the way to fix the problem between the two people.
I mean, that doesn't sound crazy at all.
Rick. Yeah.
I was just going to say,
excuse me, sorry.
I was just going to say, that doesn't sound crazy at all, because the lawyer apparently is the one that told Ryan Garcia, look, fight, what's the name of that Filipino southpaw?
Mercito Gesta.
Mercito Gesta, thank you. Yeah, Mercy said, fight Mercito Gesta first. And Ryan was like, no. Apparently he won. But apparently also the rumor was that Tank Davis' side said, if you take a tune-up, the fight's off. So I don't know where things stand with that. But yeah, man, I mean, I think he jumped the gun a little bit too quickly on that one. But Gonzalo, yes, you want to ask something?
Basically, that's what I was going to ask too, B-Day, about the Mercito Gesta situation to Rick, and the fact about the weight clause and everything, that he didn't want to listen to actually like what maybe Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya had to say. He was more inclined to his advisor, that dude with the glasses, Lupe Valencia. And what do you think? I mean, should he have listened to those guys? Because obviously there might be a problem with Ryan, right? He don't want to listen. They even get him a trainer that's a good renowned trainer like the Goosen. But basically he's saying, well, Ryan runs the show. I'm just here from the outside looking in if I have something to fix, but Ryan's like almost perfect. So you can tell that they're walking around like eggshells around Ryan. Why is that? Because he's a media star or what?
Look, there's multiple parts to answer your question. I mean, you could have world-class trainers, but if the fighter is not disciplined, or he's not being forced to be disciplined by, management or whoever his team is, then you're not going to get the results out of that world-class trainer that you're supposed to. And then, I know there was a little bit of that was probably going on that affected those situations when it came to a trainer, without question. As far as his current manager, advisor, he's also a lawyer. He's a smart man. I can't speak for him. There's probably things that I would bet my life on that no one knows that he has to deal with behind the scenes related to that deal, Ryan, etc. We don't know what Ryan's long-term plans are. Ryan's very well-to-do. Ryan might have put pressure on the situation and said, look, I want a cash-out fight. I'm not going to fight that much longer. In that situation, and then his advisor's role and job is to get the fight done best way he can. He might have told him to do that because that was the single and only way that fight happened. So we don't know. We don't know what Ryan's personal plans were to continue fighting past that fight. He may have said, this is it. I want to fight 2-3 more times. It's a tough sport. I've made more money than anyone out there. I want this fight to happen. So that could have been a possibility to their benefit. But what De La Hoya said was what a promoter would say, trying to protect his fighter and his fight and the fight itself. You don't accept that clause. But we don't know what Ryan's reasons were for accepting the clause, nor his advisors. He could have made it for that decision. So you got to be a little objective without crucifying Ryan's side, because he's never said what his plans are. We don't know what those are. We don't know what they were. But on the surface, if you're a promoter, a manager, you're not going to put him in that fight right now, and you're not going to use that clause, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I keep prefacing all these questions with asking you to speculate, because it is speculation when some of these guys, you're not managing them. But that's the thing, though. It's hindsight's 2020. Sometimes in boxing, you got to take a risk. I mean, there are boxing fans like us in the sidelines wanting to see these fights happen. We don't very much care for all the negotiation and all that. We just want to see the fights happen. Which brings me to the question. Somebody wanted to ask you what happened between Teofimo Lopez and Barboza, because that was supposed to happen last year, right? Or there were talks that was going to happen last year? What happened there?
That's it. That's an easy one. Lopez turned him down 3 times. Top Rank offered him the fight. All 3 times he turned him down. His first 140 fight, his second 140 fight, and this third one before, with Taylor, it was Barboza was offered at all 3 stages. But look, you can't say Lopez didn't make the right move or decision. He went after Taylor. He beat Taylor. He absolutely had the greatest fight of his career, and now he's worth $1 bazillion if he doesn't, retire. So, but he did turn Barboza down those fights, all 3.
And when a fighter turns down, because I assume that it's a case of either Top Rank or somebody else, right? Saying, all right, we got this couple of fighters that you could fight. Do they give him options, or is it just no? You got to fight Teofimo Lopez. How does that work?
No, they give multiple options.
Right.
They could say, you fight Barboza, we'll give you $1 million. Fight Sandor Martin, and we'll pay you $500. Fight Josh Taylor, we'll give you $2 million. So there's multiple factors in all of his fights, and any fighter. You're going to get multiple opponents, multiple offers cash wise, and it's you and your team's job to evaluate them. And Lopez had a plan. He just wanted to get active at 140, and he wanted to go after Taylor and all the belts. That was his plan that we now know. Even I couldn't understand why he wouldn't fight Barboza when it was offered 3 times. But now you can see why he didn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's
Barboza was too much of a risk for those 2 fights.
Right,
that's
hindsight.
the answer. Barboza was too risky for his first 2 fights.
Yeah, it looks like he made the right choice right there. But I mean, again, it's Barboza, if I understand it correctly, really wants that fight, especially now that Teofimo Lopez is the undisputed. People are going to challenge that, this undisputed, lineal, whatever you want to call it. Can we expect Barboza, because Teofimo Lopez was doing that. He was at the Crawford Spence press conference. We see him showing up at press conferences all over the world. Can we expect Barboza to do something similar, start following Teofimo Lopez around to try to get that fight made?
He did. At the Sandor Martin fight, he sat ringside. They had the camera on him. They talked about him on air. He called him out, and Lopez said in the ring on ESPN to one of the Top Rank executives, "Hey man, please don't have me fight Barboza. I don't want to fight him." He said that on camera and walked out of the ring.
Interesting. Then again, he also asked, "Do I still have it?" And apparently, he still does. So that's an interesting fight to watch right there.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely. But that's the thing.
Yeah,
how do you?
He does. But
how do you? Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, how do you figure that? Because isn't there a bit of a conflict of interest in how you manage certain fighters when you've got Jose Ramirez and Barboza in the same division? How do you work that out? Are there any issues that arise?
No, there's no issues. I'm a very moral and ethical manager. I'm transparent with all my guys. I talk to my guys, 3 times, 4 times a week each. So they know how I am, and they also know I advocate and push harder for them than anyone. Ramirez and Barboza both have a lot of respect for each other, but they'll also fight each other. Arnold knows that Jose's, a former unified world champion and in a different position than him. So he knows that. And then Jose also knows that Arnold wants his first world title fight. And just like Jose wanted his first one, he knows that, Barboza is going to and has to take that. It's not It's not a conflicting situation. If anything, it helps make the fight easier to some extent to get it done.
Well, that's the thing, though. Speaking of fights getting done, Prograis, again, he's with Eddie Hearn, and spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen the fight, Prograis just beat Zorrilla, and it was a bit of a letdown fight, not a lot of action. Nevertheless, he does walk away with the win. He does have a title. I forget which one. I don't follow that. What type of obstacles do you expect in trying to make a either Barbosa-Prograis fight or Jose Ramirez-Prograis fight?
There's only two obstacles to make that fight. One, Eddie Hearn has to want and have faith in Regis that he can win either of those two fights. That's the first prerequisite. The second one is writing a check for the fight. Eddie will have to pay, a large amount of money to make that fight with Ramirez. And Eddie's done that before. Jose's fought, Maurice Hooker, Eddie's former world champion. That's how he became a unified world champion. And Eddie made the big fight happen and wrote the check. It's the same thing in this situation. But I don't think Eddie's going to write that check until he's confident that Regis can handle those two guys.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean,
but it's as easy as that.
I mean, right. It sounds easy, but I mean, we've heard that before, right? Like, hey, these guys are gonna fight, and then one side, for some reason or another, the fights end up not happening. And that's the other thing, though. Eddie Hearn, I know Bob Arum's not the head honcho. He's not on the floor as much as he used to back in the day, but he's still a significant figure within the top-ranking organization. And from what I've seen, and all boxing fans, we see that all the time. We see Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn going at it. Would it be fair to say that if the money's right and if the fight makes sense, they would be willing to work together and make a fight happen?
Absolutely, they will, and they've done it many times recently. They absolutely will. They will make the fight if it makes sense to them. There's no question. And usually it's a financial decision. If one side feels strongly, they will put the money on the table and the fight will happen. And Eddie Hearn has done that many times. He's been on the winning side and the losing side, but he will make the big fight. He will go out and make the big fight. Top Rank will make a lot of big fights too. You're seeing a lot of big Top Rank fights lately. When there's a big fight to be made, it gets made. But like on this fight that we just saw tonight, that would have been Barbosa if they would have offered a real amount of money. But the budget wasn't there. It's still a business at the end of the day, so you have to respect where the promoter was coming from. The promoter had to pay for that event in New Orleans that lost a shitload of money. Then he had to pay Prograis a handsome amount of money to start his contract off. There was not a major budget for this first fight for an opponent. That's why you didn't see one. That doesn't mean that 2 fights from now, Eddie looks at the situation and is comfortable and he goes and gets the budget for a big fight. But this fight here, there wasn't a budget to pay a big-name opponent or a highly ranked opponent on this fight. It wasn't there. But, the money's just not there.
Well, that's why I suppose that's why one of the audience members asked about the ESPN thing, about the rumors about whether ESPN is getting out of the boxing business, because Steve Kim is one of our callers. He usually calls in, and he's told us. I mean, he's one of the guys that 10 years ago was saying, look, he actually had spoken to one of Showtime's former head honchos over at the sports division. I forget the guy's name. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he told him, look, listen. The real problem is not HBO. It's if ESPN gets into boxing, because their budget and their capabilities far outnumber anything that either HBO or we have. ESPN has been in the boxing business now at the high level. Forget Friday Night Fights. At the high level now for about, 3-4 years? And as a boxing fan, I feel like they're not really... Like you said, they've put on some fantastic fights. We've got Fulton Inoue. That's the fight I'm looking forward to the most. But it just seems like they could be doing more. Are they just getting started, or what's going on?
So look, Steve Ken, I would consider him a friend. I know him well. I speak to him often. I have the utmost respect for him. He's highly intelligent and knows the sport, no question about it. And he's right with everything that you just said. The one thing that Steve will tell you is that what he wishes and what he sees would change stuff is that if ESPN demanded bigger fights on a regular basis, if it was demanded, it would leave no choice, and you would see them often. So he's right from that standpoint. But ESPN is got the capability to dominate everybody. So he's right with what he's saying, But there are a lot of bigger fights that have been getting done. Ramirez, Taylor, the Lopez fights with Loma and just the Taylor fight you just saw. These are massive fights. These are not cheap fights. You're talking about $5 million fights, $6 million fights. And that doesn't include the production that it costs to produce a fight at that level. Commentators, arena expenses, travel, hotel, add $1 million just for that. So Top Rank is putting on the big fights recently, and lately they have been. But he's right overall. That's
a great way of putting it. Yeah, the logistics involved in all of that. I just like to see a little bit more consistency because they have been consistent. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, there's the potential there. There seems to be an untapped potential right there, and in terms of potential, like you said, there's been some obstacles in getting some of your guys the paydays or the big fights that they want, which then leads us to another question. If Barboza can't, let's just stay with Barboza for the moment. If he can't get Teofimo Lopez, let's say Teofimo Lopez starts playing hardball and says, nah, I'm staying retired unless you offer me 10 million or something like that. Where does Barboza go from here? What are some of the options that you can already see from the get-go?
If he doesn't get a big fight with Top Rank, which is very possible for him to still get, he'd be a free agent. And I think, Golden Boy, Matchroom, anybody would look at him. You have the number 2 ranked guy at 140 who's undefeated. So, he'll be good no matter what happens. He'll be good no matter what happens.
Well, hopefully, Ben. And by the way, Epadokua in the chat says, can you ask Rick, does he prefer the bag or taking less for more frequency fights for his stable? I don't understand what that question means. Do you understand?
That's a great question that he asked.
What does that mean, by the way? I don't get it.
That's probably the best question that anyone. I'll explain it to you. What he's asking is very smart, and it's a very good question. It gets to a point where, do you want a guy to fight for $2 million a year, twice, or fight 4 times a year for $2 million? $500,000 a fight instead of $1 million a fight. So it's a great question. And my answer to that question is also simple. It depends where the fighter's at in his career. If it's early on and it's his first, 10 fights, 12 fights, 15 fights, frequency is the number one thing that you want to do. If he's become a champion and a name, then you're going to focus, as he put it, on the bag. You're gonna want to maximize the largest amount of money with the least amount of risk for that fighter. They are going in there and putting their lives on the line in a serious manner. So the higher up you go, it's a financial decision at that point.
Interesting.
Truly a financial decision.
Yeah, that's an interesting way then to put it.
And you also have to pace yourself and value yourself. You have to value yourself. So at one point you have to stop and say, am I a $500,000 fighter or a $2 million fighter? Mm-hmm. And how is that done? How do you value what you are? So that that's the other part that you need to look at and understand. Yes.
Go ahead, Gonzalo.
BD, I was going to ask. I can't get my mind off of this one in regards to Ryan Garcia. You think Oscar De La Hoya has done everything that he has been able to do, that he can for Ryan, but Ryan's kind of been ungrateful? And the whole thing about him abandoning him after the fight, him and Bernard or Eric Gomez, I don't know. And that's the reason he's kind of upset.
I don't think
did they abandon him?
Why he's upset? Not in my opinion. I don't think they abandoned him. I don't think that's the real root of the problem between the two groups. I think that's just a symptomatic response to it. That's just one of the things as a result of the other things not being fixed that they complained about or whatever. But it's hard to say that Oscar didn't do his job as a promoter. I mean, it's very hard to say that because he has got Ryan to the point to do 1 million pay-per-views. He's built him. He's brought in his matchmaking for years, which was not easy. He's put his name out there. You know, Oscar, when he is actually promoting, there's nothing like Oscar from all the promoters. He draws attention in media like no other when he's doing it, you know? So, look, it's hard for me to digest that Oscar as the promoter didn't do his job. I mean, there's only one way to show that a promoter didn't do his job, and that's at the bottom line. Bottom line is unreal. It's one of the best in the sport. So in my opinion, Oscar as a promoter got Ryan to the finish line. And look, how many people can you say did 1 million pay-per-views in the last 10 years?
That's right. Yeah, that's
I mean, how many?
Putting it.
And with a limited skill set, meaning he wasn't Ryan wasn't an Olympian coming out. He wasn't that kind of fighter. And Oscar was able to, with Ryan, produce that type of revenue. You know, all the problems aside, I feel like they both should be happy. You know, regardless of the problems, they both should be happy. They should. They both should be in a good place, and they both should be happy. But you know, when you do 1 million buys at that price, and you as a fighter are making $2+ million a fight at that age, fighting the guys you are, I mean, Oscar did his job as a promoter, in my opinion. So I just hope they could kiss and make up, to be honest, because I think he's great for the sport. I think he does an amazing job getting awareness for the sport in general. And Oscar is a good promoter, you know, and did his job. But, you know, all I can hope for, in, you know, just my opinion, is that they work those problems out, because they both are great at what they do.
I mean, the fight itself was an economic miracle, and the fact that both guys were able to get it done when most of us expected it to wither, it was a good move. But it does seem like Ryan Garcia seems to be like a bit of a hell client. Like, I don't think you'd have a good time managing that guy, because he just seems to, I don't know, he's got a lot of people around him whispering in his ear, it seems. His family members maybe telling him, hey, this guy might not be good for you. And there's already been rumors that he was already in trouble or getting into fights with the Golden Boys. So I don't know what the future holds for him, but he does seem like a bit of a hellish client. Or would you say that makes him an exciting client? Would you be happy to manage a guy like that?
I would just say that it makes him a high-end fighter with a lot of responsibility and a lot of people in his ear. That's what you're going to have. I mean, look, that kid has been through hell and back, probably. He's been critiqued every time he moves. Anytime he makes a move, he's getting a barrage of hate and this and that. He's got a lot of pressure on him. The pressure to continue to win at that level. I mean, so you're going to have that happen with the fighter. You know, it happens in my world, but it's more or less how you handle it is the question. Like, how do you handle someone like that? I mean, it's not Oscar's first time handling a superstar, you know, or Bob Arams or any of them. And sometimes they fix the problems, and sometimes they don't. But, you know, like I said earlier, with situations like that, the team has to step in early and diffuse the egos and the attitudes on both sides. The promoter and the fighter. The manager needs to step into the middle early on and start taking the tones down. It's a very emotional world that we live in the boxing world. And those emotions will make decisions more often than not. So the key to fixing is that situation like that is dealing with it as things happen. And I think in this situation, too much stuff happened that was not talked out and dealt with, and it just snowballed into what you're seeing, you know? And that's what I think happened.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of miscommunication between those two. Somebody brought up Rolly Romero. That's the unsaid name right now, 140 pounds. Surprisingly, he's got a belt. And I got to ask you, though, when you got a guy like Rolly Romero, who's been accused of, 2 years ago, the Tank Davis fight was postponed because of sexual assault allegations. do you, if a fighter, God forbid, but if one of your fighters ever got into some sort of shenanigan like that, do you have a lawyer already on call, like an Alan Dershowitz type guy who specializes in these type of cases? How would you approach that?
Of course, I have 17 fighters I manage. Do I do my best to check on them all, keep them out of trouble, talk to their dads, the people around them? I do, but you know, you're going to have situations happen. That's just life, you know. So yeah, of course, I have lawyers and other people around in case problems happen. But you know, you can't control everything. They're human beings. They're going to make mistakes along the way, some worse than others. But you know, it's you know, you have to have that in place. You have a job to do to protect them and, you know, tell their side of the story and so forth. But it's not something you want to condone or, you know, take lightly either.
Well, that's the thing, though, because like a guy like Romero, like the allegations were that he forced himself on the victim in question, and you know, like you say, you're not the guy's fathers. You know, like they're not your sons. You can't really just watch out all of them 24/7. So, to a certain degree, you got to cut them some slack, right? And say, hey, listen, you're a grown man. Well, do you stay awake at night sometimes thinking, oh, I hope this guy's not in a motel room somewhere with a hooker or whatever?
I'd be lying to you. I'd be absolutely lying to you if I don't get calls at 4 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m. with situations. It's what happens. But the difference is I answer my phone, deal with it, try to solve it, fix it, and that's what I do. So if you don't answer the phone and you don't do anything, that's when it gets even worse. But yeah, of course, that happens to me. A lot. It's happened.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be weird. And but that's the other thing, though, because okay, you want to maximize your fighters' profits, and sometimes boxing, look, it's not there forever. Some of these guys, it varies, but it's between 36 and 40.
Right.
That's when boxing is, you know, it's time to think of something else to do. A guy like Josue Vargas, for example, I don't want to get into the whole thing with him, but he started getting into some OnlyFans type stuff. If a fighter of yours who's still active, by the way, ever came up to you and said, hey, Rick, I'm thinking of starting like an OnlyFans page, you know, where I'm going to show everything. I'm going to show people a new side of myself. Would you advise against that, or would you be for that?
I mean, I'm very open and transparent with my guys. So the first thing I'd say is, what the fuck are you going to do on OnlyFans? What do you plan on doing? Then I would watch the first episode. And then I would go ballistic. Yeah, if they fucking did an OnlyFans thing, you know, and I found out, I would watch the first one and go
90 seconds.
Try to kill it and make sure it doesn't happen anymore.
Taking up the
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, though, because there's that female fighter. Gonzalo, help me out here. Who is that? It's the blonde one with the big kazooms.
I don't know too much about the
I don't know who that is,
fighters.
but look.
Bridget,
Look, I'm not going to have this talk.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have this talk with her if she's making $10,000 every time she fights. You know, that's not a talk I'm going to reach out and have with her. If I've got a guy making $200,000 a fight or more, then that's the scenario I'm going to have to talk with. I'm not going to give him life advice, in my opinion, you know, unless I truly feel it's necessary. If this girl is making $80,000 a month on OnlyFans and $10,000 to fight, you know, I'm not going to say a word to her.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, though. It's the new dynamic with the internet now. It's a lot of these guys have avenues to make money, and you know, it's one thing to when a guy wants to take a, you know, there's like the local car dealership wants him to do an ad, right? And we want you to read an ad and be the face of this used car dealership we have. It's a whole different thing when they're out there on the internet showing it all, if you know what I mean. It's like that's the internet.
Exactly. If she's getting $80,000 to do that and $10,000 to fight, and no sponsorships, then you know you got to be happy for her that she's generating that money on OnlyFans. But like if Jose Ramirez, you said I had an OnlyFans, and Jose's got corporate sponsors from Dodge Ram, Wonderful Pistachios. I mean, he's got 6 casinos, Fortune 100, 500 endorsements I've done for him. If he came to me and said that, I'd lose my mind. I'd do everything humanly possible, including ripping his computer and phone and breaking it for him not to do that, which would never happen, of course. But I'm just giving you an example.
Right.
If they're already marketable fighters and making large purses, then that is going to be a destructive thing to them. But if they're just, like I said, not really high-end fighters and just like to fight and get a fight once in a while, but have a big OnlyFans page and make a ton of money, then that's the business that they're in. And you got to be happy for them. They're not in the boxing business making $10,000 a fight at 30 years old or 26 or 7 years old. They're not in the business of boxing. Boxing is not their business at that point.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And now legally, if any of these guys want to OnlyFans or whatever, legally, don't they have to go through you or any type of advertiser? Don't they have to go legally through you or through his lawyer or with, maybe even with Top Rank? Or how does that work?
No, look, not at all. Like, you could have a contract with somebody, and if they decide to do what they want, they're going to go do what they want. That's what courtrooms are full of, cases for every day. But, if they have clauses in there that are morals clauses, like any high-end fighter is going to have a moral and ethics clause probably to deal with. They're going to have to respect those, or they're going to have, real problems and issues.
Absolutely.
That's just part of it. Sometimes they get, lucky and they know their place, that they're worth too much money to the promoter or the network, so they're able to get away with stuff and it's looked past. But overall, it's not accepted. Overall, it's frowned upon and dealt with. But there are plenty of occasions that you both know that these guys go out and do the most heinous things, and it increases their value to the promoter and the network.
Hey, listen, there's
life.
There's fighters out there that run over women, pregnant women, then leave the scene, and they actually have fans. They actually have fans that support them and root for them. So I guess it can go both ways. By the way, Ebony Bridges.
Support.
What's that?
It's not even the support that you're looking at. It's not the supporting fans that's the key. It's the general public that hates them and wants to watch them fight and lose. That's what is happening. That's where their income was exploding. It's not the fan that supports them. It's the fan that hates them and wants them to lose when they fight.
Yeah, that's the other thing, though.
That's what's creating the money.
It's what I feel like that's not always the case, but it does play a factor in it for sure. By the way, I just wanted to tell people, Ebony Bridges, that's the blonde boxer, female boxer, of course. That she's the one that's got the OnlyFans page, and she's doing very well on it. So I keep seeing.
She sounds smart. Whoever that is sounds smart. It sounds like the draw is that she's a boxer. She fights. So that's the hook part, the interesting part, and then she does whatever she does on OnlyFans, and it's a good business model for her, obviously.
I mean, that's the new generation that we're seeing. Like I said, boxing 2.0 with the internet, Twitter, OnlyFans. Some people use Instagram to their advantage very well, like Ryan Garcia. But what about that? Like Teofimo Lopez, he's this is a bit of a tricky question, by the way, because Teofimo Lopez got the Bud Light sponsorship. Now, this was before the whole controversy there with Bud Light. But are there any things that you would watch out for in terms of a legitimate company trying to get an advertisement on your fighters? Would you, in other words, what I'm trying to get at this whole woke thing, I don't want to ask you. Right, but I don't want to ask you about your political views because I don't know if you want to get into that. But if something happened where you go, this issue's a little too hot with this company, maybe you shouldn't, would you be willing to do that?
No. If it's something that I felt was damaging to the fighter, like if it's a pornography site, absolutely not. If the fighter wants to come out against gay people and thinks that all gay people are bad, absolutely not. If there's, all of the things that you could say are just generally morally or ethically bad, you don't want the fighter to do. I don't think Bud Light's bad. Bud Light had an incident, but Bud Light is a beer that's been around for 100 years, and it'll be around for another 100 million years. It's not bad in my opinion that he has Bud Light. In fact, I'm happy for him that he has that because those kind of deals are rare in boxing. There's only a few. Jose Ramirez has a 6-figure Corona deal. Lopez has that deal with Bud Light, and I think Canelo has one. But you don't see him that often. So for me, it's neat to see that he has it.
Okay, yeah, that's true. And by the way, I didn't know Jose Ramirez was with Corona. That's interesting, right there, man. Since when has that been going on for?
He's got an annual deal with Corona. He's had Corona in the past, but they did a large 6-figure one with him that I ended up negotiating earlier this year. So that that's a brand behind him.
I got a couple of questions.
The pistachio one's cool now, Rick. He's from Avenal, California, no, the capital of pistachios. That's where they have the most pistachios in the United States, maybe the world. I'd be eating pistachios all the time.
Yeah, pistachios are good, man. Pistachios are good.
That pistachio company has been amazing since we went to the Olympics. That was our first sponsor that I went out and got, and they stayed with him, I don't know, his whole career almost. Tremendous people. The Resnick family that own it, the billionaires, but they have supported Jose and us from the moment that he went to London in 2012, helping us out. When we didn't have anything at that point, they had got us housing in London for his family to be there, sponsored him, tremendous company. But we live in the Ag Belt, in Fresno, California. This Central Valley feeds the world. There's more billionaires and millionaires per capita where we live in the Central Valley than anywhere in the United States. So a lot of people won't crack jokes. Oh, it's just farmland. It's just this. It's a bunch of cows. Good luck. These farmers will buy and sell your ass 10 times over where we're at.
I mean, it sounds like something that would happen on OnlyFans too, man, selling ass. But listen, it's interesting though, because somebody in the chats, a couple of questions coming forward here. Somebody's asking about, is there going to be a Top Rank event in California, Fresno, California, in the next couple of months or within the near future?
I just did one March 25th that I put on for Top Rank in Fresno at the Save Mart Center. I did another one the month after March in April at the Stockton SMG Arena for Top Rank. And I do have one, I can't tell you what the date is, but I do have one now that I'm working on for Fresno for the rest of the year. I am working on one to get done.
All right, interesting. That's shout out to Jesus for his question. Somebody else asked, I forget the name, I can't see it now, but they asked you, are there any names that you're managing that are on the come up that we might not have heard of yet?
Haven't heard of yet. So
what are some of the lesser known guys that we should look out for that you're managing?
So I have guys that may be lesser known, but they're killers. They're absolute future world champions and amazing fighters. Lindolfo Delgado is a fighter that I have that I think will be a future world champion in the next year and a half. He was a Mexican Olympian in 2016. Unbelievable fighter at 140 pounds. I have him with Top Rank. He's special. He's someone that I think.
Why is his career stalling, Rick, at 27? Because last time he fought Poito Aguilar, that was a good fight, and the amazing uppercut, good boxing skills, and he's kind of been inactive.
Yeah.
Just asking.
Say that again. You said Lindolfo's been inactive?
Has he or has he not? Or, I mean, because he's turning like 28.
No, Lindolfo.
I figure he'd be high up there like the guys the other fighters that Top Rank promotes, but he doesn't seem to get the same limelight.
So Lindolfo, I just got Lindolfo signed to Top Rank last year. He fought 5 times. So he was incredibly active. He fought once this year. You didn't see him again because he had some family issues he was dealing with in Mexico, and he had to take 60 or 90 days off. But you will see him very soon back in the ring. I believe late July or August. So, but yeah, he had some stuff he had to deal with that was with his family for a few months. So, but he is active. Since he was signed to Top Rank, he fought 5 times immediately. So.
Yeah, see, I didn't know you. I didn't know you managed. I didn't I didn't know you mentioned Lindolfo because that when he fought Pollo Aguilar, that was like swept under one of the top rank undercards. So I think it wasn't even televised. You needed ESPN Plus for it. And I'm thinking, why are they not putting this guy at least on the main card? It was a fantastic fight. So yeah, hopefully, like you said, hopefully his issues are family issues or whatever they may be are settled.
That fight, he proved to Top Rank and everyone else, I'm ready for the next step. I mean, that's what that fight was. But he's a good fighter, someone that you'll see big things about. Virgil Ortiz, if you don't know who that is, 19-0, 19 knockouts. He fights for a world title July 8th in San Antonio where the Spurs play. I think he's going to be the face of boxing. I think he's our next Canelo Alvarez type fighter. Virgil Ortiz.
Whoa.
I think can move through these weight classes and win multiple world titles. And again, he's a unbelievable, young fighter at 22 years old. He's 19-0 with 19 knockouts, ranked number 1. If he beats Stanionis July 8th, he's the mandatory for the winner of Spence Crawford, and I can see him fighting Spence at Cowboy Stadium and literally 50,000 people showing up. But that's a special fighter that I think you're going to. Yeah.
No, yeah. What about the condition that's been plaguing him? Is that already gone or is not coming back?
Yeah, he got. We went and got doctors. I did put together a team of people to deal with the situation, and it's worked. It's helped. He's by his own accounts, I think he put a post up today on how good he feels. But he's pushed himself to train and rehab and deal with stuff unlike any other. He wants this world title very bad. But yeah, he had to get treatment twice a week. He had to go through rehab. He had to go through quite a bit to get to this point. And he's 100% right now, and he said that himself. And this young man is not a talker. This is not an exaggerator. You will never see him just talking to talk. When he says he feels 100%, he's 100%, and that's a scary scenario for the other side.
Well, we're looking forward to the Stanionis fight for sure.
Mean Machine.
I mean, yeah, we're looking forward to the Stanionis fight for sure. One of the most anticipated fights of the year, and hopefully he goes after the winner of Crawford Spence. I mean, that's the only fight to make, man.
Another special kid that I think will be a world champion by the end of the year is Ruben Villa. Ruben Villa, I got signed to Top Rank about 4 months ago. He just fought on the Stockton show I did in April. Looked world class. He fought Emmanuel Navarrete for a world title and lost, but he won 6 of the 12 rounds, but he was knocked down in one of the rounds. That's a special kid. I think without question he'll be a world champion by the end of the year, if not the beginning. So that's another name definitely to look at, Ruben Villa.
Yeah, he went the distance with Navarrete. He got dropped, but he went the distance. He's got good footwork. His footwork really...
and I think he beat Venado too, BD. Didn't he back in the day? But now he's on the warpath.
Yeah, he beat Gonzalo Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, he even beat Shakir Stevenson twice in the amateurs. Twice. He's the only person to beat Shakir twice. You want to talk about a skill set, Ruben Villa has a skill set amongst the best.
What division is he at right now?
Damn.
Still at 126 or?
Yeah, he's at 126 now. So you could see him fighting Rosie Ramirez. I think that's the fight you might see him in.
Whoa.
But you'll see him in a world title fight by the end of the year.
So you're saying you got him a deal with Top Rank? Is that what you said? Like ESPN?
I did. I got him a deal with Top Rank and got Top Rank to sign him and give him a promotional agreement, and now he's off and running.
Interesting. So we'll probably see him on ESPN very, very soon. Can't wait to see that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely you will. Absolutely. And I've got other guys. I've got a Mexican Olympian, Misael Rodriguez, 2016 bronze medalist. He's 11-0. I did a deal with Zanfer Promotions over there with Fernando Beltran for him. He's from Mexico. He loves Mexico. He's a Mexican Olympian. He's a Mexican Marine. And so, he's on his way, I think, to, doing something special out there. That's another fighter.
Is he a middleweight? Is that guy a middleweight?
Yes, middleweight. Yep.
Interesting. And what's the other guy you
But yeah,
said?
I've got a bunch. Josh Franco is another fighter I have. He's fighting for a world title next Saturday against Ioka in Japan.
Oh, Joshua
Amazing
Franco. Yeah,
fighter.
sure.
He beat Ioka prior, but they called it a draw. You know,
Now,
he
what's
got
the deal with
robbed.
Franco?
They called it a draw, so we're doing a rematch.
What's the deal with Joshua Franco? I always get it confused. Is he Bam Rodriguez's half brother or cousin, or what are they?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's his half brother.
Half
They're both
brother.
world
Okay.
champion brothers.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was getting confused there by that. But so yeah, that's next week, right? Are you going to be in Japan for that one, or?
No, I won't be able to make that trip. My mother's pretty sick, so I've got to stay home.
Well, sorry to hear that. But yeah, that's a long trip there to Japan. You probably jet lagged on top of that going over there. Man, you're making some moves, man, with these fighters. You're making some moves with these fighters. I mean, staying busy.
Look, you gotta love what you do, and appreciate it, and feel blessed to have the opportunities, and you can't waste them. You know, and just in my opinion, these guys are going in there and putting their lives on the line, and you got to do the same thing outside of the ring for them. You got to get everything done you can, negotiate as hard as you can, produce what you can, and you know, that's how I look at it. But I'm grateful to even have the opportunities that I have with these guys, or put on the big fights that I put on, you know, over here. So I'm blessed, lucky, but you know, you got to work hard, and you got to enjoy it, and you got to push yourself, you know. But that's just it.
Well, there you go, man. Now,
PDA, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Yeah, Rick, just your opinion. With Canelo Alvarez, I think selecting Jermall Charlo coming off a 2-year layoff, accordingly, it's 90% done. What's the reason? Why is that the most viable candidate where he could make legacy against Badu Jack and other fighters? Why that one?
So look, this is my opinion, and it may sound wrong to some people, and it may not. I think Canelo has proven his legacy already, and I think that there's nothing wrong with Canelo fighting on his own terms and fighting who he wants at this point. I think he's earned that. I don't think that the Charlo fight is the worst fight in the world. I know we all want to see him fight Benavidez. There's no question. We all want to see him fight Bivol again. Of course we want that as fans. But, you know, we also can't forget that he's proven his legacy already, and he is the king of the sport at this point. And, you know, I'm not mad at him for fighting Charlo. I don't think he's, you know, picking some super easy, no good opponent. But at the same breath, I see your point. Like, of course we want him to fight Benavidez or Bivol, but here's the thing. There's certain fighters that come and go that we're going to watch no matter what. Whether it was Tyson, whether it was Mayweather, Oscar, or Canelo. There's a handful of guys over the decades that have gone by. We're going to watch them no matter what, because early on, in the middle of their careers, they cemented their legacies to us as fans, and we'll be pissed off at them, but we're going to buy that fight, and that's what Canelo is.
Gonzalo, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. I guess it'll fill some narratives, right? Because they say he don't want to fight Black American fighters, I think, and he'll be fighting one. So let's see what happens after that.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the narratives that we see.
Charlo's going to put on a good fight. Charlo is not some bum. He's going to put up a good fight. He's going to make for a great build-up. You won't be disappointed. It's just not going to be Benavidez, which is the biggest fight I think that could be made for him. Like, that's the biggest fight in the sport I think that could be made.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, hey, listen, it's going to happen. And by the way, it actually works out.
Are you okay if you make? Do you want to make $50 million and fight Benavidez, or $36.5 million and fight Charlo? I mean, there, you know, you also have to look at the business side of stuff. So,
hey, Rick, and if Charlo loses, it'll still be all right, because then he'll fix his life. I don't know if he's been going through some problems. At least they'll say he got that bag, he got paid.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's what they're
And
going to say.
he is. You got to be happy. Look, you get a Canelo fight. It's the biggest of your career and biggest payday. So you got to be happy for Charlo for that as well. Charlo is gonna get his big fight that most guys don't ever get. You know. So again, I think Charlo is going to be a fun fight. It's going to be fun in the pre-fight stuff. It's going to be fun in the build-up. And he's not going to go in there and lose in a round or two. He's going to put up a real fight. So, I mean, again, it's just not Benavidez or Bivol. So, you know, there's not that elevated risk factor like we're tuning in and saying, oh, shit, he may lose, oh, shit. We're not going to be doing that when we watch the fight.
Well, hopefully
or Battle Jack, because that's a winnable three draws. I mean, he used to be a super middleweight too. Then Canelo would be 5-time. Like, there's only been a handful of guys: Mayweather, Pacquiao, De La Hoya, Tommy Hearns, and Leonard. Yep. So, like, they're creeping these dudes, Spence and Crawford, up that list, like 3 or 4 respectively. I mean, Canelo can come back from being like number 4 all the way to the top. But I see, man, maybe that ruins his body. That's why he wouldn't do that. Like, all the way up to 193 or something, 200 limit.
That Spence Crawford fight is the one. That's the Hagler Hearns fight for this generation. That is the most competitive, I think, fight that we're going to see. Just the one that we've all wanted to see. That is the fight. That is truly the fight. You know, that's the one. You want to talk about legacy? That's a legacy fight. That's truly a legacy fight.
I mean, we shall see what they do with that one, man. If the undercard stinks, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to work that one out there.
The undercard will probably stink. Most high-end pay-per-views like that, the undercard always stinks because the budget's not there. But that night you're paying for the Crawford and Spence, not the undercard on that one.
Well, hopefully they deliver, because I'm still, even as a hardcore boxing fan, I'm deliberating about whether I want to buy it just out of principle. But I'll probably cave.
You better buy that fight. You gotta buy that fight. You cannot say you're a hardcore or casual fan if you don't buy that fight.
I'll put it to you this way.
You gotta buy that. You gotta be able to say, I watched that fight.
I'll put it to you this way. I might start the OnlyFans that night instead of buying the fight. Put it to you that way. But listen, people in the chat are saying prayers to your mother. Again, I don't know if you want to get into specifics about that, but whatever. Hopefully,
very nice. That was very, very nice of them.
Yeah, hopefully it works out for you.
Very nice to whoever that was.
Hopefully, well, it's a bunch of people. It's multiple people in the. Hopefully, everything works out for you there, Rick, and your mother, of course. Prayers. What was
one last one, BDA? It doesn't have to be a long answer. Just a question.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure.
So Ryan Garcia's criticized. Going back to the beginning, Ryan Garcia's criticized. No, correction. Regis Prograis has criticized Ryan Garcia for not having heart. And I was telling BDA that Regis Prograis wasn't necessarily looking like Hurricane Katrina in there today. So do you think Regis Prograis lacks that dog that he likes to talk about?
Yeah, he don't have that dog.
Look, Regis, there's no doubt that Regis has as much heart as a fighter of any great fighter. There's no question in his heart. None. That I can tell you that guy has a lot of heart, period. As much as anyone, there's no question. That's I understand why he said that about Ryan. The knee, just early on, getting up easier, with no problem. Right after, those are different breeds of fighters. Those two. Regis has a shitload of heart.
Well, yeah, man. I mean. It's a lesson in fighters sometimes. Maybe they shouldn't talk so much because then it might return on their faces. But listen, Prograis, we'll see what happens. Next fight, you can look bad in one night and then look great the next. Boxing fans, we only remember the last fight. That's usually how it works. It's about what have you done for me lately.
Yeah, that's true. I still think a big part of me thinks that he's one of those guys that he needs to get up for a fight. He needs to mentally be up for that fight. And, this opponent may not have done that for him. So I think we're going to see one more tune-up fight in between, and before we see an elite fight. Now, that's what I think. Maybe wrong, but, the person that'll make that decision is Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, because he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, and boxing fans were all impressed when he fought Sean Cepeda. So we look forward to seeing him in there against some of the top names.
Yeah, Sean Cepeda, that's my fighter. I managed Jose Cepeda. I was sitting right there at the ring watching it. It was an incredible fight. That was not the same Regis that fought tonight. And Cepeda is a elite 140. So he wasn't. That's not the same Regis that we saw against Cepeda that we did tonight.
Well, okay, man.
But I saw that one up and close.
Yeah, we'll see because, we're all very excited to see this division. There's a lot of big names, a lot of different styles, and some undefeated records still there. So we'll look forward to that. Listen, Rick, man, we got to move on here, man. It's 2 a.m. here. Are you on the West Coast or on the East Coast?
I'm in California, West Coast.
West Coast. Okay, yeah. So, it's an impromptu call, but it was very enlightening. I got to tell you, very enjoyable talking with you. Like I said, we usually don't get into the whole... Yeah, we usually don't get into the whole behind-the-scenes things. I don't follow the negotiations all that much. Like I said, and I think Gonzalo shares the same sentiment. We just want to see the fights, more or less. Of course, every once in a while, things trickle down, and we do talk about they offer this, they offer that guy that. But very enlightening, man. Very enlightening, and it's good to see that you're doing well. You're staying active. You got a bunch of fighters on your stable. So we wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors, and call back again one of these days. See what's going on, man. Send me the updates. All right, Rick. Thank you for your call, man. Very good talking with you, man.
You got
Take it easy out there.
Okay, bye.
That was Rick Mirigian. I should have asked him how do you pronounce his name, because I always call him Mirigian. I think it's Mirigian. Gonzalo, you lived in the United States. You know better than I do. How do you pronounce his name?
I looked it up online. Mirigian, maybe.
Yeah, because I see it's
Providence
M-I-R. Yeah, so there's 3 I's in there. Anyway, listen, very enlightening. Very enlightening talking to him. It's a lot of fighters that I didn't know he managed. Because I didn't even know what his stable was. Joshua Franco, Jose Ramirez, Sean Cepeda, Barboza, some up-and-coming guys as well. Very interesting. Very interesting. Some rando says, I think it's an Armenian name, BDA. BDA saying it correctly. Is that right? If I said it correctly, it's out of luck. Hey, listen, before we go, we still got some calls here, 2 calls, so let's just go to them quickly. They were gracious enough to wait here. 301, you're on the air, 301. What's on your mind?
Oh, what's up, BDA? I kind of forgot I was on the line. I was actually hitting the bag listening to this dude.
Is that right?
That was kind of interesting. I called in because I don't know if you saw Tim Tszyu. He just sparked this dude out. Ocampo in the first round. So I was all excited to talk shit. He just smashed this dude.
What do you think, caller?
Did you see that?
Think? Yeah, I saw that, and I usually try not to swear, but man, he fucked that guy up. I mean, do you think the Charlo fight now? A lot of fans are going to be rethinking who they pick in that fight between Charlo and Tszyu.
I mean, honestly, yeah, because he's got dynamite in that right hand. That was an impressive way he threw it. If you notice, his legs were like completely upright. So to deliver power that way, just stepping through clean like that, that was impressive. I got the first shot that rocked him. And he's, he's sharp from the first round, which is usually what Jermell is known for. So I feel like it's a very competitive fight. Plus Jermell's had all these injuries, like injury after injury, right? They've postponed this fight twice, if I recall. And the fact that he's hungry, he's coming off a dog bite. Turns out he's got the dog in him. The dog's fucking with the wrong dog.
He gave him rabies. Yeah, he gave him rabies, man. Oh, man, that's interesting.
The rabies made him go rabid. But I want to make a quick note on Prograis. I disagree, with that Rick guy. I don't think Prograis just couldn't get after that fight. I think the guy in front of him was good. That guy had a great gas tank. He was tall, he was fast, he was accurate, and he just kept moving to he was right all night. I was actually surprised that Prograis, I think he is showing his age, like your title says, because he couldn't step forward. He couldn't throw a double feint and a shot. Like, he didn't want to track the guy down. He was just following him. He wasn't cutting the ring off effectively, and the guy was making it hard for him. But I don't want to like belabor the point too much, but I feel like Teo, the jury's still out for me on him because he beat Taylor like purely on instinct. I would say Teo, when I look through his career, he isn't that good on like going through game plans. If he can't just like time the guy in front of him and get the range and shot and his feel for the range and land his combos and walk the guy into a shot, then he's not going to be disciplined. Like the Nakatani fight is obvious to me, but you kept talking about the OnlyFans thing. My mind went in the gutter. There's another chick, like she's like in the influencer boxing thing. I think her name's like Elle Brooke. Yeah, she was on Pierce Morgan. Dude, she's got like a robust face, man. Like she's got like a fucking massive jawline. Like I bet this girl gives like world class head, dude. Like I bet she can like hit you from angles that you've never experienced before. You know what I'm saying? But she's got a wide jaw, dude.
I'm gonna check her out. What's her name?
Like,
just for research purposes.
Like, whirl it. Like, the type of chick you want to put through a spin cycle.
but wait, what's her name? Just for research purposes. What's her name?
Elle Brooke.
Elle Brooke. Sounds like an old woman's name. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll check her out. I'll check her out, man.
I saw her on a Pierce Morgan. She did this interview, and she's like one of those girls who like knows she's hot and just sits there with like this expression like I'm hot, and then she just fucking exudes sex appeal. So I usually don't like these porno people, but that was the first time like damn.
I'll watch it, man. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
So there you go. You got some nighttime activity from me. You're welcome, BDA.
All right. Thank you for all of that, man. We do have to go because we're running out of time here. But shout out to you, man, and thank you for your call back next time, right, man?
Yeah. No, thank you. I got in like 8-9 rounds on the bag. Just waiting
that's
for
good.
To finish. But
that's good. You get your workout.
Yeah.
You don't even have to thank us.
Fucking. All right.
Yeah, you don't have to thank.
Yeah,
you don't have to thank
Bye.
us. All right, you too, man. Have a good night. I'm going to check it out. Elle Brooke, I think he said her name was. I'm going to have to check that out just for research purposes. Last call of the night before we go. 336, you're on the air. 336, what's on your mind?
Yo, so Tim Tszyu looked damn good, really, against Ocampo. Just put him out in one fucking round. I'm kind of on the fence about the Charlo fight. I was before the fight, too, and I thought, Ocampo has a padded record. Tim Tszyu would get him out of there early, but I think he'd just fucking put him out cold in the first round. So, I don't know, man. Plus, Charlo's been inactive, and he's shown against his biggest fights. Most of the time, he adjusts very well in the second, but he comes up short, really. If you look at Harrison, you look at Castano, he lost both of his fights the first time, and he was losing to Harrison before he knocked him out, and he adjusted well to Castano before stopping him. But, yeah, he looked, I don't know, Jamel's a very beatable fighter, so that's why he's not like in the upper echelon of my pound-for-pound list. And with Regis Prograis' performance, people got to understand, not everybody's like a Terrence Crawford, a Loma, Pacquiao in some instances, where they can just put on elite performances, that high into their age. Like when you're 34, 35, all it takes is one performance. And, Haney's got a shot to beat Regis Prograis because he doesn't look like the same fighter he was 2 or 3 years ago. I know he was maybe a little inactive. I think he fought Zepeda, in October or something like that last year. He had like a little 8 months off, and, the dude came and didn't really fight to win after he got knocked down in the first round. But Haney's got a real shot to beat that dude, and it pisses me off because Regis just, I don't know if he's at his best anymore, man. And Haney's not even a real fucking champ. So,
well, listen, time will tell.
And also, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, time will tell. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, my bad. And also for the OnlyFans shit, like, bro, if you're gonna leak it, that's fine. Or obviously you're just gonna pirate that shit. Don't be paying to see your crush get fucked by another nigga. That's like so cucked. I would legit like put anyone up against a wall and shoot them if I could. IRL any quote unquote man that would pay for that shit, and then piss in the exit hole or exit wound. Yep.
Well, that's very specific, very graphic
it's
as well,
just bad, dude. Like, God, man. Most guys got to fucking pay escorts now at this point to get fucking vagina. Women are just objects, to be honest. But
wait a minute.
For Chad and Tyrone.
A little
That's
bit too.
For second Renaissance. Don't worry, you might.
Yeah, that's for second Renaissance right there.
But
yeah,
ever since Tinder and the iPhone came out, like women's expectations and standards for a man is like it's pretty much unrealistic. You got to be far better looking than her just to even lock her down. It's ridiculous. No more.
We actually talked about that
everywhere I go.
Yeah,
I
we
see
talked
the man's
about
like
that.
Almost always better looking than the girl. It's like fuck.
Talked about that on the second Renaissance a couple of times, and we're gonna expand. We gotta expand on we gotta expand on that subject in the second Renaissance because it is starting to become a problem in the wider scope of society. It's in some nobody seems to be willing to look into it. So,
right, you're right. It's always the man's fault. I'm gonna add this real quick. So the more hypergamy is rampant in a society, obviously the worse it is for the man. And the best way to view this to see how bad society is, if you look at single mother birth rates. If you go to places like Eastern Europe and shit like that, probably other places in Central Asia, Eastern Asia, and all that shit, there's not a lot of high birth rates in single mothers. When you go into the West now, the United States, 40% of women are single mothers. In France, 60% of women. In Portugal, Spain, it's like 50%. So the more you see single women, it means the women have to be held accountable too for who they choose to have sex with. If you're just fucking dudes that are like in the top 5% in looks and are like players and they get ass like that so easily, they're not going to commit to some average fucking roasty. Like, I'm sorry to tell you that. If you're a 5 out of 10, you're just going to get fuck zoned if you're trying to lock down an 8 out of 10 guy. Like, that's just reality. And men as a whole overrate women way too much. Like, they don't know how to break down facial bones, eye area, aesthetic, any of that shit because they can just fraud it with makeup. So I'm serious. Like, men as a whole really overrate women.
Caller, who is this?
And men just like willingly date down severely, and they nuke their fucking gene pools. This is why you see guys that are like 6'2" with 5'1" midgets, and their sons grow up to be 5'8" or 5'9", and they fucking hate their daddy.
Okay, wait a minute.
I go on Intel servers all the time, and they say this shit.
I gotta ask you, who is this? You've called him before, right? Who is this? Just refresh my memory.
It's the Fire Fist again.
The Fire Fist. Okay, the Fire Fist. Call. Hey, join the Discord. Join the Second Renaissance Discord. This is something that's very interesting, and I've been meaning to do a full episode on this type of subject. So let me put the. Are you already part of the Second Renaissance Discord?
Not the Second Renaissance, no.
Not the Second Renaissance. That's bad, man. I'm gonna put the link right there. There it is in the chat. So join in there and send me a DM because I want to talk. I want to set up an episode on this. We do have to go though. It's very late. We're nearing the end of the show here. So
no. We're not gonna take too long. It's already 2 a.m. where I'm at too. So all right, deuces,
all right.
No mugs.
Take it easy, Fire Fist. Don't go around fisting tonight.
Yep.
Go to sleep. All right, take it easy out there.
Yep.
Very interesting, enlightening there when he was talking about that. Well, Gonzalo, before we go, what about that? Did you catch the Tim Tszyu versus Ocampo fight, and what'd you make of it? Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, I was watching it as I was on the show too, on this little tablet. He steamrolled him. Basically, what I think, he didn't respect his power. Went in there and threw 3 consecutive right hands. Then as soon as that dude got overwhelmed, Ocampo, he turned his back and he caught him. Like, I don't know, Mikey did Slatichinan. When he wasn't looking and dropped him, basically steamrolled him. They didn't respect his power, just dominated him.
Very similar. Yeah, I thought it seemed like he heard him early, wobbled him early, and just said, fuck, I'm going for the kill. And he went for the finish. It's impressive. First round knockouts are always impressive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the guy's the most skilled fighter in the world, but he did show, right, Gonzalo, against Tony Harrison and Terrell Gosha before that the guy can put pressure on for as long as he needs to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, when he faces Charlo, he's going to have to be a little bit more cautious, I guess, because you don't want to run into something. So I guess he is a fighter, and like him and his team do their work. They know they're strong, and if they can get away with like knocking you out quick because they don't respect your power, they're going to do that. But then again, you can't really know 100% sure until you face that person. So you have to be a little bit more cautious not to run into something.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we go, would you be willing to make a tentative pick between Tszyu and Jermell Charlo?
It's a difficult fight to call because Charlo will get on the back foot and have Tai Tszyu chase him around, then basically, I think Charlo would try to run him into something. All the while, Taizu would probably put pressure, but that pressure wouldn't start off until like the later rounds, until he ends up catching up with him, and maybe it's not enough, and it goes to the cards, and it could go either way. Charlo could get a decision by landed the cleaner shots or Tim Tszú's pressure. But if the pressure comes late and too far between, I mean, it's hard to tell. I wouldn't want to pick that fight right now. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way it seems to me. I think he's going to fight him like when he fought Banana Rosario. Just run, like you said, run around, try to run him into something. But listen, that fight's still a couple of months away, if Charlo is even ready for it. Meanwhile, Tszú's been active now for about 2 fights, 2 good fights. So that's one to look forward to again. Put it in the books. Another good fight to make. And hopefully it gets done. Well, Gonzalo, we're going to go. I don't know if there's going to be a show tomorrow or today, technically, because it's 2 a.m. It's Sunday already. I got to do some things early on during the day in the morning. So if we do a show, it will probably be in the evening here. Probably. I'm not sure. But shout out to you, Gonzalo. Thank you for joining us.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I asked the pistachio question. Somebody said, why you get so excited? I mean, wouldn't you be? Pistachios, have you ever had one and when you end up finishing the whole bag?
Absolutely.
I'd be making pistachio milkshakes, everything.
Yeah, pistachios with salt and pepper. Those are good. They're expensive, though. Getting expensive, let me tell you. And
yeah, of course.
I'd get excited for some pistachios. More excited than an OnlyFans page. That's for sure. But anyway, listen, Gonzalo, we got to go. Thank you for jumping in, man. Cool. Always good talking with you. Hopefully we'll talk to you tomorrow. And shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Excuse me. Shout out to everybody. I missed a couple of super chats here. Let me just go here to... shout out to Michael Poe for his contribution to the super chat. He says, BDA late night. I see 5 a.m. here, so like usual, here's a gift. Continue with your greatness. Well, shout out to you, Michael Poe. Shout out to Frankie Sands for his contribution to the super chat. He says, Tim Tszú beat Ocampo in 1 round. I didn't see the reason for that fight. Tim was impressive, but still needs work. Functopus says, thanks for Rick Mirigian for chopping it up with the boxing nerds. We appreciate it. All right, shout out to the Functopus. And shout out to One Foot Out the Door who says, whose stock is lower, Prograis or Fury? Oh, hey, that's a good question right there. I'd say Prograis, because at least Fury has a large fan base. Prograis never really been that much of a ticket seller, if you want to put it that way, which is the only way to put it, really. But he's a heck of a fighter, man. And I was surprised at how much he struggled last night. Technically last night. But anyway, fellas, thank you for joining us on this late night post-fight show. We will try to be back tomorrow. Got to work on that. Talk to a couple of people, move a couple of contacts, see how we do that. In any event, shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Parokua, JJ Ocampo, that Gucci Berserk, Eddie Valenzuela, Knockout Ned. Who else was here? Bushido Kai, Alberto Gonzalez, Gerald Draymond, Parokua, like I said, Hawker Mustang in the house as well. Shout out to Hawker, Lil Mac. I saw I Am Your Leader in there. Shout out to I Am Your Leader, Protectorate General, King KO. Many more people. The Quags was in there as well. Shout out to the Quags, South Crack TV, Empo. One Hitter was in there as well. Haven't seen him in a while. Jump Tube, Arm. And if I forgot anybody, it's because we're going to go. Shout out to you fellas. Thank you for joining us. Catch you on the next one. Have a good night. Take it easy out there.